This guy was so busy watching TikTok while walking that he got hit by a truck and sent to the afterlife. However, thanks to his good karma, he got a chance at reincarnation. Catch, to find out who he'd be reincarnated as, he had to spin a random wheel. He excitedly hit the button. The screen spun wildly before landing on the words, "The number one master of the Jianghu, the Violet Demon Lord." The main character was so overjoyed he jumped for joy, unable to believe his luck. Next, he eagerly leaped through the reincarnation portal to his new life. After he left, the reincarnation staffer tidied up, ready to clock out. But as she passed the lottery machine, she stopped and pulled out the paper slip. This system is such a piece of junk. If there are too many words, you can't see them all. The main character thought he was reborn as the number one master of the Jianghu, the Violet Demon Lord, but the full text of his new identity was, "In lackey, casually smacked to death by the number one master of the Jianghu, the Violet Demon Lord." Just like that, our main character woke up in a downpour. He brought all his past life memories with him, but he was completely unaware of the glitch at the reincarnation station. So he still believed he had become the number one master of the Jianghu. In reality, he was now Li Ziwei, an ordinary employee. Li Ziwei stood up in the heavy rain, looked himself over, and complained, "For a top Jianghu master, I'm dressed pretty poorly." Then his eyes landed on something that looked like a token on the ground. Before he could even pick it up, 3 armed men landed behind him. Strange, the aura of the Violet Demon Lord was definitely around here. "Why isn't there any trace of him?" they muttered. Li Ziwei, having picked up the token, innocently asked, "Are you looking for me?" Seeing the token in his hand, engraved with the 3 characters Demon Sect Order, the strangers were convinced he was the Violet Demon Lord. They roared in fury. "It really is him. So you're the Violet Demon Lord, and you've even disguised yourself. There's no hiding that stench of blood. You're a lawless tyrant, a natural-born killer. You've murdered so many people for some cultivation technique. I've heard the rumors. You've been hit with a goo worm from the 10,000 goo pavilion, so your strength isn't what it used to be." Li Ziwei listened in utter confusion as the 3 men accused him, but he still thought he really was the Violet Demon Lord, and that he must have been poisoned with a goo worm and had to disguise himself as a commoner. So facing the group that wanted to kill him, Li Ziwei remained incredibly arrogant. "You think you're worthy of taking my head? What gave you the delusion that the 3 of you could possibly defeat me?" Li Ziwei said, bursting into a fit of crazed laughter. He simply thought that even with a goo worm, he was still the number one master of the Jianghu, and the men were actually intimidated by his bravado. To be safe, the 3 of them combined their swords, creating the Golden Holy Sword formation. Instantly, a giant Golden Holy Sword appeared. Who would have thought it was pouring rain, with thunder crashing all around? These ancient folks really lacked some basic knowledge. Gold is an excellent conductor of electricity. As a result, the giant holy sword attracted several bolts of lightning, which struck it directly. As for Li Ziwei, even though he had no idea how to use any techniques, he just surrendered everything to this body's instincts. When the 3 men were coincidentally struck dead by lightning, Li Ziwei naively believed that he had just used a single thought to cause the tragic deaths of 3 masters. So this is the power of the number one master in the Jianghu. "This is way too cool," he muttered to himself. Afterward, Li Ziwei returned to Wuyu Town. The surroundings were incredibly lively. The feeling of personally experiencing the real Jianghu made him incredibly excited. However, not long after entering the town, Li Ziwei suddenly heard a child shout, Look, is that the Violet Demon Lord?" This innocent voice startled Li Ziwei. The townspeople started to buzz, gossiping about the Violet Demon Lord. Li Ziwei became extremely tense. "How can this be? Didn't I already change my appearance? What should I do? Do I have to kill everyone in town?" he thought to himself. But when he turned his head, Li Ziwei's eyes landed on a notice board. On it was a wanted poster for the Violet Demon Lord, complete with his portrait. Only then did Li Ziwei breathe a sigh of relief, feeling lucky that he had disguised himself. Just then, a child in the crowd actually recognized him and called out, "Brother Wei, what are you doing here?" Li Ziwei turned to confirm the child was talking to him, a big question mark appearing over his head. The child then led him back to the first inn, complaining nonstop along the way. "I can't believe you're so unlucky, Brother Wei. You not only fell off a cliff but also got amnesia. You've been gone for 2 days. Everyone thought you went back to your hometown. This is your room. You should change into some clean clothes first. The head chef is getting impatient." Then the child led him to a simple room. Li Ziwei looked around the room but still didn't doubt his identity, simply assuming that the name, Li Ziwei, was just an alias. He thought to himself that he needed to get used to this identity quickly. But reality wasn't as easy as he imagined. As a kitchen errand boy, Li Ziwei couldn't even manage to kill a chicken. The head chef found his incompetence extremely irritating and kept nagging him. "Aren't you going to get to work? Careful, or I'll tell the boss to dock your entire month's salary. What bad luck. Skipping work this morning was bad enough, but now you won't even work properly. Besides killing chickens, what can you even do? You can't even pluck a chicken clean. All day you just study those useless, crappy cultivation techniques. If you could learn a technique, then a sow could master lightness kung fu." The head chef went on a tirade, but Li Ziwei didn't say a word back. This made him furious, and he yelled again. "I'm talking to you. Are your ears made of wood?" As soon as he finished speaking, Li Ziwei decisively brought the knife down to kill the chicken, creating a loud bang as the blade hit the chopping block. The commotion startled the head chef. He was even more horrified when Li Ziwei suddenly turned around, a completely unhinged smile on his face, which was now splattered with chicken blood. "Head chef, is there anything else you need?" Seeing this terrifying expression, the man could only shut up. Let's rewind a bit, a few hours earlier, to clear up the source of this misunderstanding. At that time, the real Violet Demon Lord was slaughtering countless people to cultivate his technique. Bodies were piled up like mountains, and he was in a state of madness, reveling in the feeling of slaughtering people like crushing ants. A group of other Jianghu masters had gathered, determined to stop the Violet Demon Lord today. However, the power gap between them was too vast, they couldn't change the outcome. Then the demonic master was seen taking out his demon sect token. The faces of the men instantly turned pale. Not good, he's trying to send a command to his majesty, stop him. But the token in the Violet Demon Lord's hand had already shot into the air. "Trying to stop me, as if you're worthy." In stark contrast to that scene of blood and carnage, on a mountain quite far away, the original owner of Li Ziwei's body had just set up a grave for a chicken. This young man was incredibly soft-hearted, even mourning the life of a chicken, which is why he went all the way out here to bury it. Who would have known that as soon as he finished, the original Li Ziwei stood up only to be struck by the Violet Demon Lord's flying demon sect token. Its incredible speed sent him flying off the cliff, and just like that, the original owner used his own life to successfully stop the Violet Demon Lord from transmitting his message via the demon sect token. That's also why after reincarnating, Li Ziwei found himself waking up with this misleading token, leading him back to the kitchen of the first inn. The head chef still hadn't recovered from Li Ziwei's reaction. He had no idea what could have possibly happened in the past 2 days, because before he was clearly just a timid teenager. As an elder, couldn't stand being shouted down and intimidated by a kid. "I've roamed the Jianghu for years, and you, a mere brat, dare to act high and mighty with me. Do you even know who I am putting on this act in front of me? You want me to turn you into tonight's special?" His voice boomed throughout the kitchen. Li Ziwei silently sized him up. He felt that while this chef wasn't very bright, his physique was well suited to be his underling in this strange new land. Seeing Li Ziwei look at him with such a condescending gaze, the head chef couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed an eel from the cutting board and threw it hard at him, cursing nonstop. "What the hell is that look on your face?" Faced with this aggressive attitude, Li Ziwei also wanted to test if this man was truly worthy of being his subordinate. He grabbed the kitchen knife stuck firmly in the chopping block and slowly advanced toward the head chef. Seeing him like this, the chef couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. "What do you think you're doing?" The head chef backed away a few steps, slipped on the eel on the floor, and fell backward. At that exact moment, Li Ziwei lunged forward with the knife in hand. The terrified head chef screamed. Li Ziwei's knife stabbed down, pinning itself to the wall just half a hand's breadth from the man's neck. Then, with a terrifying expression, he asked him, "Do you know what my favorite dish is? First, you slice the food, coat it in flour, add seasoning to marinate it. Then pan-fry it in butter for a while, and finally arrange it exquisitely. By the way, the cut of meat for that dish comes from this part of a pig." Li Ziwei pulled out the knife, its ice-cold blade grazing the head chef's cheek. "Wanna try?" Li Ziwei really did have some talent for playing the villain. The head chef was so scared he collapsed to the ground, covering his face and sobbing. And that was just from a little intimidation. He hadn't even laid a hand on him yet. If I really took on a lackey like this, wouldn't it be embarrassing to take him out? How boring, Li Ziwei sighed. His gaze suddenly shifted to the door. Seeing his colleagues huddled together, gossiping, he asked, "Is there a problem?" Having just witnessed Li Ziwei make mincemeat of the head chef, they didn't dare say a word and quickly dispersed. Li Ziwei looked at them and let out another short sigh. "This place can't just be full of losers like this, can it? Seriously, there isn't a single obedient person here." Just then, he felt a tug on his sleeve. Looking down, he realized it was the same little boy who had spotted him on the street earlier. From this angle, the boy looked unusually cute. Late that night, after a day of adjusting to his new identity, Li Ziwei moved all his belongings to the woodshed in the inn's backyard. Moving his stuff here was a bit of a hassle, but he preferred this feeling of being separated from the world. Lying in bed, Li Ziwei yawned and thought to himself about all the things he still had to do. I have to cultivate my techniques, investigate the current situation of the demon sect. Just thinking about it was exhausting. But Li Ziwei comforted himself, thinking that the life of a great master is never easy. Besides, today he had discovered a promising young seed, that little kid. Li Ziwei admitted he had a soft spot for the kid because he was just so adorable. And learning martial arts has to start from a young age. So this boy was the most suitable candidate. Thinking about this, Li Ziwei felt a bit hungry. He left his room, planning to find something for a late-night snack and then talk to the boy. Unexpectedly, the kid was being bullied by another waiter from the first inn named Kyan Yujin. This jerk was annoyed because the boy had been overly friendly with Li Ziwei earlier. A good-for-nothing and an orphan, you two make quite a pair, don't you? You even dared to pick a fight with the head chef. He's the sworn brother of Boss Zhao, you know. Just wait until Boss Zhao gets back. We'll see what happens to you then. Kyan Yujin wanted to use this opportunity to suck up to the head chef and claim credit when Boss Zhao returned. So he tried to force the boy to call Li Ziwei over, but speak of the devil and he shall appear. Just then, Kyan Yujin heard a noise behind him. He turned his head and saw a wooden plank flying straight at him. Luckily, he dodged it, or he would have lost all his teeth, and the culprit behind this was none other than Li Ziwei. I've said enough and heard enough. Now it's the main character's turn. Seeing Li Ziwei's arrogant attitude, Kyan Yujin wasn't scared at all. On the contrary, he was thrilled that his prey had delivered himself to his doorstep. Next, he planned to beat Li Ziwei up, both as revenge for the head chef and to suck up to Boss Zhao. As for Li Ziwei, having a guy like Kyan Yujin, who was just asking for a beating, suddenly appear was a great opportunity for him too. He also planned to give him a good thrashing, so the little boy could witness his power firsthand and admire him even more. And so the two waiters of the first inn, each with their own agenda but sharing the common goal of beating the other to a pulp, prepared to clash. But Kyan Yujin truly had all the qualities of a side character, talking way too much before a fight. As you all know, the one who talks the most usually loses spectacularly. I suggest you know your place. If you kneel and kowtow to me right now, I might just spare your life. Kyan Yujin said with an air of generosity, but Li Ziwei didn't even bother listening. He was focused on telling the kid to stand back so he wouldn't get hurt. Kyan Yujin's face turned purple with rage. He couldn't believe that after returning with amnesia, Li Ziwei would dare to disrespect him to this extent. Stop showing off. A loser is always a loser. Kyan Yujin cursed as he clenched his fist and charged forward. His punch was full of openings. Li Ziwei took a step back, creating a safe distance. Then he used his right hand to grab his opponent's outstretched arm, reinforced it with his left, and slammed him to the ground. Even after being flattened on the floor, Kyan Yujin still didn't understand what had just happened. Did he just get taken down by the most timid kid at the inn? After executing the move, Li Ziwei felt incredibly satisfied. In his past life, he'd edited so many fight clips. He'd been dying to try this move for a long time. In his mind, he was still the Violet Demon Lord. It's just that he couldn't casually use the badass techniques from the novels just yet. However, just by relying on the internal energy in this body combined with his martial arts knowledge from his previous life, his fighting skills were already unmatched. But he still wasn't used to this body. This won't do. If I can't pull my punches and accidentally kill someone, my identity might be exposed. What a pain, Li Ziwei muttered. And coincidentally, Kyan Yujin heard every word. This body, what does that mean? An identity exposed. His face turned pale with fear. It seemed like the plots he'd read about also had details like this. Could it be that the Li Ziwei before him had a secret, mysterious identity, and being an inn waiter was just a cover? Just then, Li Ziwei also turned his head and saw Kyan Yujin staring at him with a suspicious gaze. When their eyes met, Kyan Yujin cried out in alarm. Who are you, really? Li Ziwei responded by rushing forward, grabbing him by the throat and pinning him against the wall. What did you just say? Spit it out. What did you see through my identity? Kyan Yujin's throat was squeezed tight. His mouth moved, but no words came out. As for Li Ziwei, while his hand was busy choking his opponent, his mind was racing. He felt that although Kyan Yujin was a bit of a loser, he was still able to discover his identity. Not only that, he also withstood a throw filled with his internal energy, proving he was no ordinary person. Of course, this secret identity and profound internal energy were all just products of Li Ziwei's imagination. It must be said, that broken machine at the reincarnation station really ruined his life, making him completely delusional about his identity without him even knowing. After a moment of thought, Li Ziwei let go. Kyan Yujin coughed violently, silently cursing him for being a lunatic. Li Ziwei had no intention of letting him off that easily, because in his mind, the man already knew his identity as the Violet Demon Lord, so he absolutely could not be left alive. That thought, Li Ziwei unleashed a full-powered palm strike, hitting his opponent right in the lower back. Kaian Yujin could even hear the sound of his own bones cracking. Next he collapsed from the pain, falling face first onto the floor. "Have you seen the light yet?" Li Ziwei said gloatingly. "The move that just hit you is called the bone-melting cotton palm. Once you're hit by it, you'll die within 7 days, as your bones turn to mush." It's a mystery where he read this stuff, to be able to make it up so convincingly. In any case, it was a pretty effective threat against Kaian Yujin. But Li Ziwei continued in a grand voice. "Young man, are you really content to just die like this? Great man once said that enlightenment is to die and be reborn, to welcome a new light and a new future. Therefore, I can offer you another choice." Long after, in the forest on the outskirts of Wuyu Town, the large canopies rustled non-stop from someone using lightness kung fu. This girl was Xia Yi, a constable of the Iron Cloth sect, working under her father. Xia Yi's father usually assigned her boring paperwork, mainly to keep his daughter from running around, as remnants of the demon sect had recently fled to the nearby area. But in this world, people always want to do what they're forbidden from doing. Therefore, Xia Yi was determined to capture those demon sect remnants to prove her strength to her father. In her hand was a scroll she had stolen from her father. Inside was a sketch of the wanted target. Xia Yi wanted to see for herself just how formidable this remnant was to make even her father so tense. However, when she opened the scroll, what met Xia Yi's eyes was a white-haired woman in revealing clothes, striking a seductive pose. Xia Yi froze for 2 seconds. Then, apparently out of sheer embarrassment, she immediately tore the scroll in half. "Why would this woman have an image like that?" she yelled. Just then she heard voices from a distance. Xia Yi stopped grumbling, looked into the distance, and saw Li Ziwei and the boy. "Brother Wei, is it true? If I learn kung fu, will people stop bullying me?" The yin boy looked at him with sparkling, earnest eyes and asked, "Of course, you saw how easily I dealt with those jerks who bullied you, right? Not only will you not be bullied, but if you learn my techniques, you'll also be worshipped by the world." Li Ziwei replied, though the last part felt a bit awkward to say, since that so-called worship was actually more like being hunted down. Hearing this, the little boy suddenly knelt down. He had heard from his sister before that when you accept a master, you must kowtow. So this innocent child forcefully slammed his head on the ground, creating a huge bump on his forehead. "I want to become strong, Brother Wei." "No, master, please teach me." That same night, Kaian Yujin also returned to his home. It turned out this guy's identity wasn't just an ordinary waiter, but the young master of a rich and mysterious family. When Kaian Yujin returned home, several maids rushed out to greet him. Among them, a scantily clad woman brought a letter to him. "Young master, you're back late today. A letter arrived for you from the capital." "The capital? What do they want with me now? I don't have the energy to deal with those guys right now." Kaian Yujin replied impatiently. The maid continued, "Let me help you change, young master. We still need to apply medicine to your back pain." After speaking, she skillfully removed Kaian Yujin's outer coat. As a result, she saw a clear handprint on the back of his shirt. The maid's mood instantly exploded. She screamed, dared to strike the young master, who hit him so hard they left a mark. "Even a mosquito wouldn't dare bite our young master. This person is too much." Kaian Yujin sat to the side in silence for a long time. Finally, he told her she didn't need to apply the medicine anymore. The chronic back pain that had tormented him for years, which even doctors from the capital couldn't fix, had been completely cured by Li Ziwei's single palm strike. Originally, that strike was meant to be a full-powered blow to shatter his spine and kill him. But unexpectedly, it hit someone with a pre-existing condition, so the blow ended up turning into a chiropractic adjustment from a modern medical perspective. However, being in this situation, it was inevitable that Kaian Yujin would overthink things. He was convinced Li Ziwei had done it on purpose. He was also terrified that if he didn't obey, his bones would actually turn to mush and he'd die in 7 days. In the end, Kaian Yujin chose to live humbly. He put his coat back on and went to find Li Ziwei to have a proper talk. It was late at night, but Li Ziwei was still in the forest with the boy, practicing techniques like focusing his spirit and gathering qi. He taught with immense dedication, despite having no power himself, only an unshakable belief in his identity as the Violet Demon Lord. Martial arts is all about technique. The key is the unity of inside and out, of form and spirit, Li Ziwei taught earnestly. The boy practiced with great seriousness as well. Afterward, he leaned against a tree and started to think about what kind of technique would be suitable for the child. Speaking of which, since he transmigrated, Li Ziwei still hadn't finished studying the techniques in the demon sect order. Back when he was being chased by those 3 men, they mentioned some kind of technique that didn't sound like anything good. Killing demons, slaughtering people, piling up bodies like mountains. Li Ziwei absolutely did not want to go down that path. Thinking too much was just giving him a headache, so he put the matter of the demon sect order aside. Then he took out a beginner's technique manual from his robes. Hey Zio Shua, come on, master will teach you a fist technique. Li Ziwei waved his hand. Seeing the boy's blank expression, he realized he'd used the wrong name. Because of his job in his past life, weren't all the characters on his short video platform called Zio Shua? Li Ziwei had to make up an excuse to save face. It's a rule of the martial world not to use your real name. You'll understand when you're older. The kid trusted him unconditionally and obeyed without question. Meanwhile, Zia Yi was still hiding in a nearby treetop. He had spent the whole evening spying on them because they seemed suspicious, only to realize they were just 2 idiots who, instead of sleeping, ran into the forest to practice horse stance. Li Ziwei didn't even look like a martial arts student. Out of compassion, Zia Yi decided to stay and watch over them a little longer, just in case they were carried off by wolves. And so, Li Ziwei and the kid each took a technique manual and began to study. However, while he was still scratching his head, wondering what stage this technique was at, and how to continue cultivating it, the kid had already finished reading the basic manual he'd been given. Can I try it? He asked excitedly. Of course you can, Li Ziwei said, ruffling the boy's hair before stepping aside to let him show his stuff. So the kid went into a horse stance, focused his mind, gathered his chi, and then unleashed a punch with all his might. Since it was the boy's first time trying a technique, Li Ziwei didn't have high expectations. But who would have thought that this one punch would unleash a surging power that tore through the entire forest? Wherever this wave of power passed, even ancient trees were uprooted. Finally, the punch was aimed straight at Li Ziwei's house. With a loud crash, an irreparable crack appeared in the already dilapidated house. Both he and the kid were dumbfounded. Li Ziwei couldn't believe he had picked up such a precious prodigy, and that his beginner's technique was so powerful. He was blooming with joy on the inside, but tried to remain calm on the outside as he patted the child's head. Well done, the boy was also extremely excited, constantly exclaiming how amazing his master's technique was. Meanwhile, Zia Yi had witnessed the entire scene. The boy's punch truly left her speechless, her face turning as green as a banana leaf. After she processed it, the first thing Zia Yi did was clutch her head, as a single thought raced through her mind. Oh my God, who in the world are these 2? Zia Yi berated herself for thinking this master and disciple duo were a pair of fools just a short while ago. She didn't understand why she had been secretly following them. She just felt that if the boy's single punch was that powerful, then his master, Li Ziwei, had to be far from simple. The kid, still thrilled about his recent punch, asked Li Ziwei if he could move out and live with him. Sure you can, but this place is a bit small, Li Ziwei replied, unconsciously reaching out to touch the house. After the boy's punch, the house was already in a state of ruin, unable to withstand any more force. So when Li Ziwei accidentally touched it, the entire house completely shattered and collapsed. Zia Yi, watching from nearby, was left gawking in astonishment again, thinking that Li Ziwei had just destroyed the house because it wasn't big enough. Oh my God, a voice suddenly sounded next to her, making Zia Yi jump. Turned out she wasn't the only one tailing Li Ziwei. Kai and Yujin had also been secretly following him all this time. And coincidentally, he had also just witnessed the house being destroyed. 2 of them were naturally terrified by the scene, because the man himself thought he had destroyed the house by failing to control his strength. Master, you're so amazing, the boy said with a worshipful tone. Amazing or not, it looks like we'll be sleeping on the streets tonight. Li Ziwei sighed, but as soon as he finished speaking, 2 words, master, shot through his eardrums like arrows. Then Kai and Yujin appeared out of nowhere and latched onto Li Ziwei's leg. After the fight this morning and what he had just witnessed, this guy had firmly decided that he was a great master. Moreover, a peerless expert who could demolish an entire house with a single light tap. Defending someone like that was definitely not wise. So before things got out of hand, he had to grab onto this powerful backer. Let go of my leg, Li Ziwei shouted. I've never taken a disciple as old as you. Kai and Yujin stubbornly held on tighter. Master, I was wrong, I was blind before. Besides, didn't you tell me to make a choice? I've decided I want to follow you. I can be very useful. What use could you possibly be? Li Ziwei gave him a skeptical look. Since he had bothered to ask, Kai and Yujin didn't hesitate to show off his ability. His greatest asset was that he had money, lots and lots of money. Li Ziwei didn't know his true identity and thought he was being insulted. How much money could a mere waiter possibly have? To his surprise the next day, Kyan Yujin had completely repaired Li Ziwei's thatched hut, turning it into a dazzling, spacious two-story house. He introduced it with great enthusiasm. "Master, what do you think? The bank has a daily withdrawal limit, so I could only manage this simple repair." Li Ziwei was truly blinded by the light of money. He wondered why a rich kid like Kyan Yujin would bother working as a waiter at an inn. Guy didn't even have to think before answering. In this world, strength is everything. Talented martial artists are incredible. They say Wuyu Town is full of hidden masters. Boss Zhao of the inn is a famous name on the assassin rankings. And master, you're so powerful, yet you also came here to be a waiter. Aren't you also a master in hiding? What's the use of being a good-for-nothing with only money? Kyan Yujin's words were like 10,000 arrows piercing Li Ziwei's heart. Before transmigrating, his dream was to be a good-for-nothing with nothing but money. But having a lot of money is a skill too. If you hate someone, why don't you just smash them with your money? Li Ziwei wondered. He was just asking casually, but Kyan Yujin looked like he had achieved enlightenment. That very day, he sent his maid with a ton of money to buy out an old inn. This is what Li Ziwei meant by the power of money. It was so easy to use. Kyan Yujin's eyes were truly opened. At that moment, Li Ziwei was studying a map. Kyan Yujin was a bit of an idiot, but having a rich guy like him as an underling was pretty good. At the very least, his buying up an entire district made it easier for him to expand his influence. Just as Li Ziwei was concentrating on his research, a girl suddenly burst into the room. "Xia Yi of the Iron Cloth sect. Can we talk for a minute?" Li Ziwei didn't know this girl at all, but in the end, he decided to go with her. Xia Yi led him to Zuihualu. Muscular, scantily clad waiters there almost blinded Li Ziwei. After all the food was served, Xia Yi got straight to the point. "I'm the daughter of the Iron Cloth sect's master. I already know your identity." The words made Li Ziwei spit out the water he was drinking. "If I'm not mistaken, you must be." Li Ziwei tensed, his killing intent rising. "You must be a hidden master living among mortals, right?" Li Ziwei secretly sighed in relief, and then picked up a chicken leg. "You must be joking, young lady. As you can see, I'm just an ordinary mortal." As he replied, he mentally praised his flawless disguise and concealment skills. Little did he know that this face and identity were completely real. As for this Iron Cloth sect, Li Ziwei guessed it was similar to the authorities, an opposing force to people like the Violet Demon Lord. On Xia Yi's side, after Li Ziwei's flat denial, she became even more convinced he was a hidden master, because her father once said that true experts are always very humble. With that thought, she continued speaking. "Must know that the demon sect has collapsed, but its remnants are still causing chaos everywhere." Before Xia Yi could finish, Li Ziwei choked again. Wasn't he exactly the remnant she was talking about? And yet Xia Yi was brazenly asking him, the self-proclaimed leader of the demon sect, to help the Iron Cloth sect capture these very remnants. "The fate of the world is everyone's responsibility. So you'll help me, right?" Seeing how fired up Xia Yi was, Li Ziwei couldn't stop himself from letting out a loud, "Huh." Was this girl seriously asking him to help capture himself? Afterward, Xia Yi took Li Ziwei to a place with a sign that read, "Martial Testing Hall." He glanced around, noting the place was exquisitely decorated. He felt like he was touring the enemy's headquarters. Noticing the look of novelty in his eyes, Xia Yi asked, "Have you never been tested here before?" The moment the words left her mouth, Xia Yi figured it wasn't surprising. A master who had been in seclusion for years probably wouldn't care about such things. She began to explain to Li Ziwei that several years ago, the Iron Cloth sect built martial testing halls everywhere to measure the martial power of cultivators. Based on their rank, from martial disciple to martial god, the Iron Cloth sect grants them different colored jade pendants. For example, Xia Yi's jade pendant is green, representing a mid-stage martial artist. What about a martial god? What color would the jade pendant be? Li Ziwei asked immediately, since he still considered himself the #1 master in the martial world. "I don't know," Xia Yi answered instantly. "To be precise, nobody knows, because no one has ever reached the martial god realm, but everyone says that when you reach the martial god realm, you have a chance to open the path to the heavens and ascend to another world." Li Ziwei began to wonder. He didn't know how powerful the original owner of his body was, so he wanted to go in and get tested. If he caught the Iron Cloth sect's attention, it would be a huge hassle. While he was hesitating, Xia Yi grabbed his arm and pulled him inside. She felt that since they were already there, it would be a waste not to get tested. But in truth, she was just trying everything to convince Li Ziwei to help her. The result left Xia Yi devastated. After Li Ziwei's test, the orb turned transparent, signifying that he had no foundation for martial arts whatsoever. Li Ziwei, however, didn't doubt his identity at all. He just naively assumed the original owner's cultivation technique could hide his true power. As long as I know I'm the #1 master, that's all that matters, Li Ziwei thought. Jia Yi's face fell. Ever since the martial testing halls were established, the tests had never once been wrong. But on the other hand, she had personally witnessed the power of Li Ziwei and his disciple. The two facts were completely contradictory. Jia Yi was stumped until she remembered something her father once told her. Yi practicing martial arts is like seeking enlightenment through study. The origin of all things, the great Tao, is profoundly simple. To evolve to the extreme is to return to the origin. Returning to one's original state is the highest realm. At this thought, Jia Yi broke into a cold sweat. Could it be? She wondered. Has Li Ziwei already reached the highest realm of returning to the origin? She instinctively turned around, but he was already gone. Jia Yi rushed to the door, but Li Ziwei was nowhere in sight. Instead, she heard a voice that made her skin crawl. Yi, what are you doing here? This person was Jia Yi's father, the master of the Iron Cloth sect. After being caught, she was immediately forced to kneel in the main hall as punishment. Master Jia was furious that his precious daughter was the one who had stolen the portrait of the demon sect remnant. You're my daughter, yet you dare to do something like this. How am I supposed to explain this to the hall masters? Jia Yi, still refusing to admit she was wrong, pouted and retorted. I was just trying to help. Besides, have you taken a good look at that drawing? It's so indecent. How could you possibly help? Besides, I paid a huge sum to hire the artist who drew those wanted posters. It's just a drawing, isn't it? How could it possibly be indecent? Master Jia at the martial saint realm was fuming because he'd spoiled his daughter rotten. But after he saw the woman in the drawing, he instantly went silent, his face unconsciously flushing as red as a ripe tomato. There's nothing unusual about this drawing at all. I'll be taking it back, Master Jia said, stuffing the portrait of the scantily clad demoness into his robes. His expression completely gave him away. Jia Yi, however, remained as passionate as ever. She felt she wasn't in the wrong. The demon sect may have been destroyed, but the violet demon lord who started it all, along with many of his followers, were still on the loose. If they're allowed to regroup, it will surely lead to a great disaster. Master Jia understood her reasoning, of course, but he felt this wasn't something his daughter should get involved in. The violet demon lord's power is not something you can afford to provoke. Now that the demon sect is destroyed, the enemy is in the shadows while we are in the open. Everything must be handled with extreme care. What if a martial god were to appear? Jia Yi retorted stubbornly. Fearing her father hadn't heard, she repeated herself. I'm saying, what if we could get a martial god to help us? In the days that followed, Li Ziwei officially took Cayenne Yujin as a disciple, having him train with the boy every day. Meanwhile, he focused on studying the demon sect medallion. From that tiny medallion, Li Ziwei managed to pull out all sorts of things. Sword techniques, fist arts, mind cultivation methods, internal energy skills, and hidden weapon arts. All of them were high-level techniques. Last time he'd given the kid a beginner technique, and its power was already immense. This time, Li Ziwei wanted to try something more advanced, so he headed out of his room. Meanwhile, Jia Yi was leading her father over, so he could witness Li Ziwei's power with his own eyes. She needed to prove she wasn't just spouting nonsense. No matter how certain his daughter was, Master Jia still found the whole thing preposterous. If there really was someone who could demolish a house with a snap of his fingers, and teach a 6-year-old to split a mountain with a single punch, then why had no one in the martial world ever heard their names? Besides, a martial god hadn't appeared in many, many years. Martial gods aren't like cabbages you can just pick up at the market. Just as he was thinking this, Master Jia saw the look of panic on his daughter's face. Following her gaze, he saw a small boy practicing. The technique he was using was terrifying. Behind the boy, a giant image of the Tathagata Buddha manifested, seated on a lotus throne. And when the boy struck, the Buddha's right palm came crashing down. Master Jia and Jia Yi were right in the path of impact. If they didn't evade the descending blow, they would surely be crushed to pieces. Master Jia quickly shoved his daughter aside. Then he formed hand seals to activate the 9-bend heart protection formation. This was his ultimate technique. By using all his power as a martial saint, he could just barely block the blow. Master, I succeeded. The boy cheered, ecstatic that he had successfully performed the technique. Cayenne Yujin, on the other hand, was utterly dejected. Despite practicing the same technique, he had made no progress. Li Ziwei comforted him. Don't lose heart, everyone has different talents. Maybe this technique just isn't right for you. And he turned and ruffled the boy's hair, thinking to himself that this kid was a heaven-sent treasure. Just then the three of them heard Jia Yi's panic scream from nearby. Father, father. Father, what's wrong? Don't scare me. Master Jia was now lying in his daughter's arms. Clearly unconscious, with a trickle of blood at the corner of his mouth. Li Ziwei recognized Xia Yi, but he had no idea why the two of them were here in such a sorry state. Afraid he'd misunderstand, Xia Yi explained that she'd brought her father to witness his skills, but they stumbled upon the training session, and he ended up like this after blocking the recent attack. Li Ziwei's face went pale. He never meant to hurt anyone. Master Xia, however, claimed he was fine, only to cough up a large mouthful of blood, looking to be in critical condition. If he died here, Li Ziwei feared he would be tormented by guilt for the rest of his life. Xia Yi hurriedly wiped the blood from her father's mouth as he struggled to speak, his voice weak and broken. "It is my fault for coming here unannounced. I hope the esteemed master will not take offense." At this point, he truly believed everything Xia Yi had told him. The young boy hiding behind Li Ziwei alone possessed unparalleled strength. It had forced him to use his full power, and even then he couldn't completely negate that single palm strike. So just how powerful must his teacher be? Furthermore, Master Xia couldn't sense the slightest trace of a martial artist aura from Li Ziwei. This led him to the same suspicion as his daughter. Had Li Ziwei cultivated to the highest realm, making him completely unfathomable? Since he was already here, and gravely injured on top of that, Master Xia was determined to get acquainted with this expert. Thus, he politely clasped his hands and introduced himself as Xia Yi's father, and the current master of the Iron Cloth sect. Li Ziwei's face paled when he heard this. The master of the Iron Cloth sect, isn't that the big boss of the opposing side? Behind him, Cayenne Yujin was also in awe. It had to be said, the Iron Cloth sect was filled with countless powerful and extraordinary experts. Unlike unofficial rankings like the assassin list, joining the Iron Cloth sect was practically like becoming a government official. They're backed by the imperial court, and their sect master is obviously an even more formidable figure. He never imagined he'd meet such an important person in this lifetime. Master Xia bowed to Li Ziwei for a long time. When he received no response, he looked up, only to see Li Ziwei's grim expression. He immediately panicked, terrified that he had said something wrong and angered Li Ziwei. In reality, Li Ziwei was just deep in thought. It wasn't until his disciple's young voice broke the silence. "Master, this uncle doesn't seem to be feeling well." Only then did Li Ziwei snap out of it. "That's right, why should I be panicking?" After all, these people had no way of knowing his true identity. On the contrary, they seemed to trust him completely. In that case, I might as well go with the flow and infiltrate the enemy's inner circle. It's like killing two birds with one stone. "You must be Master Xia of the Iron Cloth sect. Forgive my rudeness during our first meeting," Li Ziwei finally responded. Master Xia, whose soul had nearly flown from his body in fear, finally regained his composure after hearing Li Ziwei's words. "It is I, Xia, who greets you. I have carelessly interrupted the master's teaching. I will make amends to you, sir." Master Xia spoke so quickly that Xia Yi was afraid her father would bite his own tongue. "Master Xia, there's no need for apologies. I was just taking the child out for some casual practice. Besides, I'm no great master. I'm just an ordinary person." Li Ziwei replied politely. Master Xia immediately assumed Li Ziwei's earlier anger was because he didn't want his identity exposed. So he quickly played along. "It is I who misunderstood. How should I address you, young brother?" "Uncle Xia, just call me Awei." "Calling me Uncle Xia is a bit much. Just call me Brother Xia." Seeing them exchange pleasantries like this, Xia Yi couldn't help but frown. After a few more words, the two of them looked as if they had been friends for a long time. Only then did Master Xia tentatively ask Li Ziwei about the technique he had just taught the child. Meanwhile, the phenomenon created by the boy had actually alarmed many people. In a temple quite far away, a monk named Ru Kong had also taken notice. His young disciple was extremely excited. Monk Ru Kong thought for a moment, then patted the child's head. "Haven't you always wanted to go down the mountain? Go call your senior brother. The upcoming martial arts tournament is going to be very lively." About an hour later, Xia Yi and her father finally prepared to leave. Master Xia was so enthusiastic that Li Ziwei didn't have the heart to refuse him. He ended up teaching him the technique, but wary of his status as the Iron Cloth sect master, he didn't give him the complete version, wanting to leave himself an escape route. Just as he was thinking this, the young boy suddenly grabbed his hand, looking incredibly aggrieved. "I Shua, what's wrong?" Li Ziwei asked anxiously. After all, this child was an orphan with no name, so he had decided to call him by his own nickname from his past life. "Master, did I cause trouble for you again?" The boy looked both worried and hurt. This made Li Ziwei pour all his effort into comforting this precious seedling. "It's not your fault. It was my fault for not checking our surroundings first. You've trained enough for today. Go get some sleep. I'm going out for a walk." Zio Shui obediently returned to his room. After closing the door tightly, the child took off the hat he always wore. Astonishingly, the child was a girl. Li Ziwei said he wanted to go for a walk. He actually wanted to go out and test the effects of that technique. He had already seen how the technique manifested through Xiao Shui, so he was even more curious about what would happen if he used it himself. So he found a barren, rocky hill to use as a testing ground. To his surprise, as soon as he arrived, Li Ziwei faintly sensed someone inside a cave. Coincidentally, this person was the very remnant of the demon sect from the wanted poster that Master Xia had commissioned. The woman was severely injured. Realizing she'd been discovered, she became frantic. "I can't die here. My master is still waiting for me. Just a little longer, I can't fall now," she thought to herself, but then coughed up a large mouthful of blood, her vision blurring. Before completely losing consciousness, she sensed a familiar aura, exactly like that of the Violet Demon Lord. And she knew no more, collapsing right into Li Ziwei's arms. At his core, Li Ziwei was still a kind-hearted person. Seeing someone so grievously injured, he couldn't bear to leave her, so he took her home and spent the whole night tending to her wounds. Just as he finished, a maidservant knocked on the door to announce that a certain lady had come to see him. Li Ziwei wondered who it could be. It turned out to be Xia Yi again. "Miss Xia, why are you here again?" Li Ziwei quickly shut the door to prevent her from seeing the strange woman inside and causing a misunderstanding. Xia Yi, looking excited, held out a small bag. She said her father had sent her to give this to Li Ziwei. Being incurably curious, he immediately opened it as soon as he received it. Xia Yi's warning came too late, and Li Ziwei was promptly buried alive under a pile of items. That tiny bag was actually a spatial bag. Inside was a variety of items, from cultivation techniques, hidden weapons, elixirs, secret manuals, and more. A gift from Master Xia in return for the technique Li Ziwei had given him. In addition, Xia Yi had a special drawing for him to hang in the inn. After all, the #1 inn was the largest in town. Hanging it up would ensure more people saw it. The drawing depicted the hiding remnants of the demon sect. As soon as Li Ziwei unrolled the scroll, the first thing he saw was a portrait of the woman he had just saved yesterday. Her name was Hong Xiu. She looked beautiful, but was a cold-blooded, emotionless weapon personally raised by the Violet Demon Lord. Hong Xiu had once slaughtered 3 minor sects that opposed the Violet Demon Lord in a single night. After hearing Xia Yi's explanation, Li Ziwei's jaw dropped to his chest. "It seems a little too coincidental. What's wrong? Even if Hong Xiu is that vicious, you don't need to make such an exaggerated face," Xia Yi wondered. Her business here should have been finished, but Xia Yi's sharp senses suddenly caught the faint scent of blood on Li Ziwei. She immediately questioned him. "Are you injured, or is someone else injured?" Having been hit right on the mark, Li Ziwei just stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. Then Xia Yi grew curious about what he was hiding inside his bedroom. Li Ziwei anxiously blocked the doorway. "This is my bedroom, you can't come in." Seeing how flustered he was only made Xia Yi more curious. In the end, she pushed Li Ziwei aside and barged into the room. Sure enough, the room was filled with the smell of blood. Li Ziwei thought he was done for, but there was no one in the room. On the bed lay only his own blood-stained outer robe. "The smell of blood on the bed is so strong. Are you hurt?" Xia Yi grew even more concerned. Only then did Li Ziwei dare to breathe a sigh of relief. Where did Hong Xiu go? Did she hear the commotion outside and leave? "I'm not hurt. It was a cat I found injured on the back mountain. It looked so pathetic, so I brought it back. But who knew? I applied some medicine, took a nap, and when I woke up, it was gone." Li Ziwei used all his strength to spin a tale. "A cat? Basically no one in this town keeps cats. It was probably brought here by a disciple of the Wan Guji. Too bad it ran away." "Wan Guji?" Li Ziwei asked curiously. "That's right. The sword discussion conference is about to begin. The Wan Guji is also participating this time. They love cats. Cats are the sacred beasts of their sect. Oh right, Wuyu Town was chosen as one of the tournament venues, so it's going to get very lively soon. You need to help me keep an eye out for anyone suspicious. With so many people around, 1 or 2 of them are bound to slip in." Wan Guji were the ones who placed the Gu curse on the Violet Demon Lord. And since Li Ziwei currently believes he is the Violet Demon Lord, he obviously couldn't let this grudge go. Thinking of this, he asked Xia Yi, "Xia, is it still possible to register for the sword discussion conference you mentioned?" Xia Yi nodded, immediately guessing that Li Ziwei wanted to register Xiao Shui. After all, the child was incredibly talented. But the real reason Li Ziwei didn't want to compete himself was because the Violet Demon Lord had only recently disappeared. He felt that if someone with comparable strength suddenly appeared, it would easily arouse suspicion. Xiao Shui's strength, while not overly exaggerated, was still extraordinary. Putting her in the spotlight could draw everyone's attention. Meanwhile, he could operate in the shadows, find a chance to get close to the people from Wan Guji, and remove the goo poison. As they discussed the conference, Xia Yi and Li Ziwei left the bedroom together. Only then did Hong Xiu drop down from the ceiling. She picked up Li Ziwei's outer robe and took a sniff. She was then certain that this was the scent of the demon sect medallion. As for the sword conference that Xia Yi just mentioned, it was a grand martial world event jointly organized by the three great sects. The winner will receive a trove of prizes, including spirit pills and divine artifacts. Participants not only get to prove their skills in the martial world, but also have the chance to befriend members of the three great sects. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to rise to the top. Thus, participating in this tournament and becoming the champion is the lifelong goal of countless martial artists. Every tournament brings together the most talented individuals from all over the realm. This time, Li Ziwei decided to register Xiao Xue. As a result, Kai and Yujin began to whine relentlessly. "Master, I want to go too." But the guy hadn't mastered a single technique. Competing would only bring him shame. Li Ziwei couldn't say that to his face, so he came up with an excuse to placate him. "It's not that I don't want to take you. It's just that I can only rest easy if I have someone I trust holding down the fort. While Xiao Xue and I are away, the inn will have to depend on you." Kai and Yujin really was a gullible oaf. After just a few words from Li Ziwei, he was completely won over. Not only did he stop complaining, but he even swore to protect the inn with his life. That guy has always been so dramatic. Li Ziwei couldn't be bothered to deal with him, so he took Xiao Xue and headed out. At the registration site that day, everyone's jaws dropped at the sight of Li Ziwei and his disciple. It wasn't because their strength outshone the other contestants, but because the two of them were dripping in gold. From head to toe, they wore Buddhist beads, soft armor, a fire element ring, a yin-yang lock, and cloud-riding wind-stepping boots. Every single item was worth a five-figure sum. The sheer brilliance of all that wealth was blinding. "Master, why is everyone staring at us?" Xiao Xue asked. Li Ziwei sighed to himself. So this is what it feels like to be a max-level player in God-tier gear, standing in front of a crowd of newbies and basking in their admiration. However, he wasn't the type to show off like this. Besides, all this stuff was way too heavy. It would be better to take it all off and store it in the spatial bag. While Li Ziwei was busy taking off the soft armor, a mocking laugh echoed from behind him. "Haha, little brother, first time at the tournament, huh? You won't be needing any of that stuff for the competition. How about you let us brothers help you? Hold on to it." Li Ziwei pretended not to understand the real meaning behind their words. They wanted to rob him, but Kai and Yujin had spent a fortune on this gear for them. There was no way he was going to let someone just take it. "No need, this is a gift from my devoted disciple. I can put it away myself, why would I trouble you?" Li Ziwei said, stuffing the soft armor into his spatial bag. Unexpectedly, his attitude made the other guy grit his teeth in anger. "Oh, so you're not going to give me Tang Bio any face?" Li Ziwei was about to reply, but just then, he saw the organizers handing out scrolls with the competition details. He could tell with one glance that this Tang Bio guy was just a side character who probably wouldn't even survive one episode. So he ignored him and went to grab a scroll for himself, and began to read it carefully. Competition had a duration of 12 shichen, a full 24 hours. The competition would officially begin in half a shichen, or 1 hour. After reading the scroll, Li Ziwei couldn't stop sighing. He had assumed the competition was just a simple martial arts tournament, but who knew they'd also have to gather herbs? Isn't this just free labor for the organizers? But it was also the perfect opportunity to get close to the people from Wanguji, an opportunity Li Ziwei couldn't afford to miss. So he and Xiao Xue had no choice but to enter the competition. Not long after the competition began, night fell. Li Ziwei started a bonfire to let the child rest. What he didn't expect was that Tang Bio's gang had been secretly tailing him for half the day. Looking at Li Ziwei's clueless demeanor, and seeing he had a kid with him, they figured he didn't know any martial arts and was just there for show. They were even confident they could flatten him with a single palm strike. Their ultimate goal was to snatch his spatial bag. The more they thought about it, the greedier the gang became. Finally, the gang charged forward, intending to take out Li Ziwei in a single move. But who would have guessed that before they could even lay a finger on him, something like spider silk rained down from above, instantly wrapping the fools into tight cocoons. And holding the other end of the line was none other than Li Ziwei himself. "See, I told you. Mobs like these never last more than one episode," Li Ziwei chuckled. The treasure he had just used to bind them was the Crimson Cloud Silk, worth 25,688 silver taels, sponsored, of course, by Kai and Yujin. "You didn't really think I was an idiot, did you?" Li Ziwei said gleefully to Tang Bio's gang, thoroughly enjoying his Spider-Man moment. "Showing off my wealth from the start, pretending to be a newbie, then waiting for someone to take the bait and start trouble. It was all part of my plan. By the time they realized they'd walked right into Li Ziwei's trap, it was too late. Lying at his feet, Tang Baio's gang was pale with fright. As for him, he didn't mind saying a few more things to scare them. No wonder villains always love to monologue in front of their prey. This feeling is just too good. All right, enough chit-chat. Let's get down to business. To be honest, I'm not familiar with this area. I don't want to cause any trouble, but right now, I can't think of a better way. So I'll just have to trouble a good Samaritan like you to help me out, won't I? As he spoke, Li Ziwei looked utterly terrifying. Meanwhile, at another inn, Yi was having breakfast. I'm surprised you're the one supervising the competition this time, she said. The person across from her set down their teacup and sighed. I had no choice. Who knows what the emperor is thinking? Such a big deal, and your father didn't mention it to you? Pouting, Yi replied. He doesn't have time for things like this. He's been completely absorbed in his training lately. He's barely even come out of his room. The person opposite her was Meng Tianqiu, the saintess of Wanguji. She raised an eyebrow and smiled. Uncle Zia broke through to the martial saint realm years ago. That's a level many people are stuck at their entire lives. You should still try to talk to him. Hearing this, Yi sighed helplessly. Who can reason with my father once he's set his mind on something? I certainly can't anyway. Anyway, let's change the subject. Listen, I recently met a reclusive master. Tianqiu was instantly alarmed. She grabbed Yi's shoulders, her eyes filled with worry, and asked urgently, Don't tell me you've fallen for someone with a questionable background. What about his identity, his sect, his master, his ancestors? Have you checked into any of it? You look really scary right now, Yi said, shrinking back in alarm. Then she tried to reassure her, Don't worry. My father already had him investigated. Besides, he loves small animals, he's generous, and he's even willing to help an orphan at his young age. He's definitely a good person. Little did Yi know, the good person she was describing was, at that very moment, acting like a complete devil. He was scaring Tang Baio into kneeling and crying for his parents, who tremblingly handed something as black as dog poop to Ziwei. Holding it in his hand, Ziwei was skeptical. This is black Shuan ginseng. It looks nothing like the illustrations. It looks more like something my grandma would throw in a soup. Hearing this, Tang Baio was even more horrified. Using black Shuan ginseng for soup, just how rich is this guy? He simply couldn't comprehend the world of the wealthy. After the man had cried his eyes out, Ziwei finally let him go. All right, since our business is concluded, you and your lackeys can leave. Tang Baio was stunned. He hesitated before asking, You're just letting us go. Ziwei glared at him and sneered. What else? You think someone of your status is even worth my time? Killing small fry like you would just be a waste of energy cleaning up the mess. And he smiled with his eyes closed. Life is precious. I'm giving you a chance to keep yours, so you'd better take it and leave, unless you're looking for death. That may be impolite, but for a villain, proper warning is in order. Ziwei had dealt with plenty of pawns like this. They're meant to be used, then discarded. They don't even count as passers-by. They may pride themselves on their martial arts, but brains are important too. You need intelligence to achieve anything great. Hearing this, Tang Baio nearly pissed himself. Use and discard, do you mean kill us? Kill us and dump the bodies. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. He scrambled to his feet, dragged his lackeys away, and fled, not daring to mess with this cunning fox ever again. Tang Baio's reaction puzzled Ziwei, but he didn't dwell on it. They rested in the forest for the night. The next morning, Zio Shuai woke him up. Master, you're awake? Groggily, Ziwei sat up and mumbled, What time is it? Zio Shuai stared at him blankly for a moment before realizing what he was asking. The little girl chirped, It's the woo hour. With that, she handed Ziwei a wild fruit. Where'd you get this? He asked. Zio Shuai chirped, I found it over there, and all this other stuff too. It was only then that Ziwei noticed a huge pile of pitch-black Shuan ginseng next to her. His face went completely blank, unable to process the sight. After a moment, he finally said, That's a lot. Let's pack it up for now. We'll turn it in later. Meanwhile, hiding behind a nearby tree, Hongxiu watched them with a joyful expression. A little later, at the appraisal station, she stared at the pitch-black, dog-poop-like object on the table. Tianqiu yelled in frustration, This is unacceptable. I told you not to bother with this stuff. Stop wasting time. If you have the energy for this, go post large-scale acquisition notices. Her handmaiden smiled and said, Saintess, you can't say that. The situation this year is different. These unscrupulous merchants are using the situation to jack up the price of black Shuan ginseng. The imperial court can't afford to pay it. The scornful huff, Tianqiu said, Aren't they just trying to get it for free? And they try to make it sound so noble. How disgusting. And they dare to dump this on Wanguji? Aren't they afraid I'll poison his wine? While they were talking, Ziwei walked up and asked, Excuse me, is this where I turn them in? As he spoke, he took out a bag, grumbling as he rummaged inside. Your drawing was way too abstract. I'm not even sure if this is the right stuff. Hearing that, Tiankyu was instantly offended. What do you mean, abstract? I drew that myself. Before she could finish scolding him, her eyes widened in shock. Stunned, Tiankyu leaped up from her chair. Because on the table, the black Chuan ginseng was piled into a small mountain. A treasure this rare. You could dig up an entire mountain and be lucky to find just a few. Seeing her expression, Ziwei added hesitantly, You guys didn't say how many you needed. Go ahead and take your pick. His words left Tiankyu even more stunned. What did you just say? Take our pick. This is black Chuan ginseng. Seeing her speechless, Ziwei asked, confused, what's wrong? Is this not what you were looking for? Tiankyu finally snapped out of it and hurriedly replied. This is it, but really, even the low-grade ones would have been fine. Ziwei nodded and said, Why don't you just take all of it? Tiankyu and her handmaiden were completely bewildered. Take all of it. Do you have any idea how precious this stuff is? Ziwei shrugged. I just picked it up anyway, and I don't really like the taste. Tiankyu was just reeling from one shock after another. Is this guy for real? Doesn't like the taste? Who just eats this stuff casually? It was only then that she realized something. The details of this trial were deliberately leaked, so everyone knew Wan Guji was buying up black Chuan ginseng. Tiankyu was certain Ziwei was using this as an opportunity to get on Wan Guji's good side. This thought she smiled knowingly, so generous, he's clearly trying to earn a favor. After a long pause, Tiankyu spoke, Since you are so generous, I won't stand on ceremony. You have done me a great service with this noble gesture. Wan Guji will remember this favor. Hearing her mention Wan Guji, Ziwei froze instantly. Before he could figure out what was going on, Tiankyu introduced herself grandly, Meng Tiankyu, the saintess of Wan Guji. It's a pleasure. Right after that, Tiankyu led Ziwei's group of 3 to their lodgings. Yujin trailed behind, absolutely overjoyed. He was on the official roster too. He didn't have to stay behind and guard the inn after all. Master is the best. At this thought, Yujin got right in Ziwei's face, fawning, From this day forward, Master, you are my savior. The gesture sent a cold sweat down Ziwei's back as he struggled to break free. Yujin obediently stepped aside, and he remarked dismissively, So this is the main competition arena. Doesn't look all that special. Tiankyu heard this and scoffed, That's where you're wrong. It's empty because the 3 great sects have booked the whole area. That preliminary round was just a formality. Very few people actually make it through. People from all the major powers and great sects were brought directly to the main competition. This place is a gathering of true masters. Anyone without real skills is just here to be fodder. Even if they pass the preliminary round, they'd get weeded out. So this roster is very exclusive. But Tiankyu said Ziwei did her a huge favor, so getting 3 spots, or even a few more, wouldn't be a problem. Hearing this, Ziwei had no idea what huge favor he'd done for her, but he smiled cheerfully anyway. You're too kind, Saintess. Pleased with the compliment, Tiankyu winked and suggested. Let's go. During the main event, room and board are on the house. I'll take you there. With that, she scooped Zio Shuag into her arms, saying gently, Little one, your legs must be tired. I'll carry you. Watching her go, Ziwei couldn't help but think that this saintess seemed incredibly sheltered, and probably very easy to trick. A short while later, at an inn, Tiankyu had brought Ziwei's group of 3 to this place. Before they entered, she stopped and said, Oh, right. I have something for you. Hold on to it carefully and don't lose it. As soon as she finished speaking, she tossed something to Ziwei. With quick reflexes, he caught it. It was 3 tokens and a small whistle. He didn't know what they were for, so Tiankyu explained, Those are your participant tokens. You'll need them to register later. As for the whistle, consider it a gift from me. If you ever need help, use this token, and Wan Guji will come to your aid. Ziwei asked curiously, Is this made of bone? Tiankyu boasted excitedly, I snuck it out myself. It's the only one in existence, so don't just use it for any little thing. The moment she finished, Ziwei put it to his lips to blow. It didn't make a sound, but it was enough to make Tiankyu scream in fury, I told you not to use it for no reason. Immediately after, they entered the inn. The moment he stepped inside, Ziwei couldn't help but be impressed. The decor and amenities in this inn. It's practically a 5-star hotel. Inside were many martial artists from the Jianghu. The moment he entered, dozens of eyes were fixed on him. Yujin, on the other hand, was completely oblivious. He waved his arms excitedly, shouting, Master, if you like it, we'll renovate our inn to look just like this. Ignoring him, Ziwei approached the innkeeper and said quietly, Innkeeper, we'd like to register. The innkeeper looked up. How many in your party? Ziwei presented his tokens and answered flatly 3. Just then a mocking voice suddenly came from behind. Kids, you must have taken a wrong turn. This is no place for games. I advise you to go home. Hearing the voice, Ziwei's group of 3 turned to look. They saw a woman with sharp eyes approaching. Before they could even reply, another voice interjected, "Why are you so concerned with other people's business?" It was a red-faced old man holding a large jug of wine. He looked drunk, but he spoke indignantly, "So what if kids can't compete? Then what's an old hag like you doing here for the fun of it?" His words infuriated the woman. She gritted her teeth. "I was just giving them a friendly warning. What is your problem?" "It means exactly what it sounds like." The old man snorted before taking another swig of wine. The woman, getting nowhere, hissed in frustration. Truly, no good deed goes unpunished. Then she led her people away. The old man then turned to Ziwe. "Kid, don't pay her any mind. These days, strength doesn't discriminate between old or young, man or woman. Anyone who can get here is formidable in their own right. No one should be underestimated." He said that if it was their first time competing and they ran into any trouble, they could come find him. Ziwe was a little moved by his words. Then bowed gratefully. "Then we'll be counting on your guidance, senior." While they were talking, Hongxiu had at some point followed them to this place. Her expression was restrained. To be so close to him, yet unable to reveal herself, the pain was immense. She missed her master so much. She even missed that tiny red mole on his chest. That intoxicating aura. Even if he were in a different body, Hongxiu would recognize it in an instant. Down below, Ziwe suddenly shivered. He had the unsettling feeling that someone was staring at him. So creepy. That evening, Ziwe lay in his room, resting and observing the small whistle in his hand. He recalled Tianqiu's confident words from that morning. If he used it to ask them to cure his goo poison, he would definitely arouse suspicion. As Ziwe was lost in thought, a loud crash outside startled him. "What was that noise?" he yelled. Yujin burst in, panicked. "Master, something terrible has happened," he said, pointing outside. Outside, it was pure chaos. Shouts and threats echoed through the air. "The competition's on. Life or death, it's all part of the game. I'll be sure to burn some joss paper for you." Horrific screams filled the courtyard. Bodies littered the ground, surrounded by a black miasma. Meanwhile, in a corner of the courtyard, a man landed from above and knelt. "It's done, big sis." It was the woman from that morning who had hassled Ziwe. She smiled, satisfied. "Excellent. On to the next target. First place in this tournament is ours for the taking." As the woman finished speaking, the black mists around them moved with her. The dark night, with its clear moon and cool breeze, was truly perfect for murder and robbery. The small inn was now a pile of rubble. Powerful spiritual energies clashed in massive explosions, reducing the once grand inn to rubble in a blink. In the sky above, 3 different colored streams of power swirled. Clearly, 3 top-tier masters were locked in battle. An old man at the martial king realm snorted coldly. "I didn't expect to see such familiar faces." Another man laughed mockingly. "It's been 4 years. Don't disappoint me." The last one was a woman. She pouted playfully. "Just looking at your faces is enough to make this old lady want to puke." 3 of them formed a standoff, glaring daggers at one another. Today they would settle all their scores, old and new. And then, quick as lightning, all 3 charged at each other. One of them produced a stack of talismans from out of nowhere. Then, without hesitation, he hurled them at the woman. The woman wasn't scared in the slightest. In fact, she looked down on it. "Haha, is that all? Hey, fortune-teller, didn't you bother to read your own future before showing up?" The moment she spoke, she made a gesture, and the umbrellas around her seemed to come alive, intercepting the talismans. Just then the remaining martial king dropped from above, snorting, "One's a clown, and the other is just polluting the environment. You 2 are just for show. Allow me to demonstrate what a real fight looks like." As soon as he finished, he gripped his staff and swung it down. In an instant, the flashes of light from the clashing spiritual energy erupted continuously, leaving Yujin, watching from a distance, completely stunned. A moment later, he exclaimed excitedly, "So this is a battle between experts. Masters from all over gather to compete, showing their skills to claim the top spot. So intense, so amazing." While Yujin was ecstatic, the atmosphere on the other side was filled with resentment. The woman glared at the martial king. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Meanwhile, Ziwe was also watching them. He couldn't help but sigh at the sight. No matter how you look at it, this seems more like them venting personal grudges. Just then, a sound from behind startled him, and he whipped around to look. 3 figures approached, laughing menacingly. "Someone here stole our tokens." Ziwe recognized them as the thugs from that morning. Yujin immediately jumped in front of him, shouting, "Master, watch out." Seeing this, the thugs panicked and yelled, "Watch out. He's about to make a move. Back up." But before they could even react, Yujin threw a stack of paper at Qiu Zhang. The thugs' eyes lit up. Banknotes, but by the time the notes fluttered to the ground, their targets had vanished. They looked around, bewildered. Where'd they go? They just disappeared. It's an illusion technique. They were about to give chase, but one greedy thug bent down to snatch the money, saying righteously, "Let them run." He grabbed the banknotes, his new priority set. The moment he spoke, a sword slashed across his throat. His two accomplices saw it and panicked. Ambush. They raised their swords on high alert. Soon they saw a woman approaching with a sword. They trembled as they asked, "Who are you?" Hongxiu didn't answer, her voice cold. "You were the ones who dared to lay a hand on my beloved master." Elsewhere, a brilliant streak of light suddenly shot across the dark sky. It was Xiao Shuai, carrying Ziwei and Yujin flying as fast as an arrow. It seemed like a minor event, but it interrupted the battle between the three martial kings. They had sensed the aura of a martial saint from below. After dealing with the three thugs, Hongxiu also took their 3 competition tokens. She happily stored them in her spatial ring. It's unclear what came to her mind. Hongxiu's cheeks flushed red as she murmured, "Once I've collected tokens from 520 people, I'll offer this ring to Master. Then I can use this chance to return to his side." Yes, that's the plan. Meanwhile, Ziwei's group of 3 landed on a rooftop. Yujin was retching non-stop, trembling as he mumbled, "Promise me, next time grab me by the waistband, not by the collar." Then Yujin glanced at Ziwei and asked, "Master, what do we do now?" With a soft chuckle, Ziwei said excitedly, "What else? We watch the show." His words left Yujin utterly confused. Before he could even process it, a roasted chicken landed in his hands. Ziwei, from out of nowhere, produced 2 lounge chairs. He stretched out on one and waved cheerfully, "Come on, let's kick back and relax for a bit." Yujin couldn't fathom why his master carried such things with him. Unaware of his disciple's thoughts, Ziwei continued with a smile, "You insisted on coming along to get on the leaderboard or something, right? Don't worry, your master remembers." He then took out a token and said casually, "If I'm not mistaken, we need to collect these. The more you collect, the higher your score. Let's just chill for a bit. When they're done fighting, we'll go find whoever has the highest score." This was a revelation for Yujin. That's brilliantly wicked. And so, the 3 of them happily lounged on the rooftop. But just as they were leisurely enjoying snacks and tea, something suddenly struck from the sky. Xiao Shuai was also captured by those vines. Elsewhere at the Taiyi sect, Xia Fu was in secluded cultivation. That moment he suddenly opened his eyes, which were shining brightly. Looking at the stream of spiritual energy in his hand, he exclaimed in awe this feeling. "This is absolute pure power." Xia Fu was moved to tears. He never imagined there was a cultivation technique that could perfectly merge with his family's 9-bend heart-protecting formation diagram. The trade was absolutely worth it. Once I master this great technique, I'll slap those bastards who call me Martial King 8 to death. However, this manual seems to have some missing parts. I'll have to ask for Ziwei's guidance next time I see him. That thought, Xia Fu's face lit up. He happily walked out of the room, practically skipping with joy. A disciple saw him and immediately greeted him. "Sect Master, have you finished your seclusion?" Nodding coolly, Xia Fu asked casually, "Has anything major happened in the sect recently?" The disciple quickly replied, reporting to the sect master, "All has been well in the sect." Just then, Yixi's voice rang out, "Father, you're out." Xia Fu glanced at her and said cheerfully, "Ah, Yixi, my treasure. Come quickly, Father has something amazing to show you." As he spoke, 9 streams of spiritual energy appeared in his hand. Yixi saw it and exclaimed in surprise, "This is the 9-bend heart-protecting formation. It doesn't look any different." Xia Fu slowly urged her, "Look closer." Yixi was skeptical, but she did as he said. Instantly, she realized she was standing on a lotus flower. She gasped in shock. This is the golden lotus of the Tathagata. Seeing that Yixi recognized it, Xia Fu smiled in satisfaction. He then continued happily, "My 9-bend heart-protecting formation, although known as an unparalleled defensive technique. ... can only be used for defense, not offense. In times of crisis, it's inevitably a bit passive. For years, I've been searching for a technique that could merge with it. I can't believe I've finally found one. Once I master this technique, my 9-bend heart-protecting formation will be both offensive and defensive. Imagine how magnificent that will be." At this point, Xia Fu spoke gratefully. "It's all thanks to Brother Wei." "Oh right, how has Brother Wei been lately? I want to visit him personally." Yixi immediately replied, "Brother Wei and his disciple are no longer in Guahang town." This news plunged Xia Fu into despair. He cried out mournfully, "Brother Wei, why did he leave so suddenly without a word? He should have at least let me see him off. Such a great karmic connection and yet so brief. I hate this." Yixi, at a loss for words, quickly explained. He mentioned before that he wanted to register his disciple for this competition. The main event is these 2 days, so he must have gone to compete with his disciple. Hearing this, Xia Fu let out a sigh of relief. "My good daughter, next time we talk, can you not pause so dramatically? As long as he hasn't left for good, that's fine." Then he started to chide her, "But Yixi, why didn't you tell me sooner? If I had known Brother Wei wanted to compete, I would have pulled some strings for him. This preliminary round is ruthless. It's amazing that Away managed to pass. Ixi scoffed. Father, you were so deep in seclusion you were on the verge of chi deviation. How was I supposed to reach you? Fu fell silent, his gaze distant as he became lost in thought. He guessed Ziwei probably couldn't bear to see his beloved disciple live a reclusive life with him. He's truly a good master. Back at the inn, after Zio Shua was captured, Yujin trembled in fear, muttering, "We're doomed." Just then the woman's voice rang out again. "I warned you. What's a kid like you doing here? Just surrender. I don't want to bully a child." The attacker was none other than the malicious woman from that morning. Strange red vines, capable of capturing people, appeared around her. Ziwei, standing to the side, observed them for a while before remarking, "This stuff feels really creepy." Yujin ran to him in a panic, yelling, "Master, senior brother has been captured." The woman saw this and was confused. What's with this clueless-looking guy? Isn't that kid with him? Does he not care at all? She couldn't sense any martial artist's aura from Ziwei, and was starting to think he was just an ordinary person. At the same time, Ziwei had figured out what that red stuff reminded him of. It kinda looks like a smile fruit. The woman studied him for a while longer, then dismissed her earlier thought. No, that can't be right. This is the main competition. How could an ordinary person sneak in? Not just him, but the guy next to him doesn't have a martial artist's aura either. Could they be using a technique that conceals their true power? The more she thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. But if they were here to compete, why hide their strength? On the other side, Yujin was so scared he nearly wet himself. Even though he knew Ziwei and his techniques were powerful, this woman was still a peak martial master. Ziwei just stood there calmly, making Yujin think with admiration, as expected of my master. His senior brother is a hostage, yet master remains calm in the face of danger. That heroic silhouette? It's so cool. The more Yujin thought, the more he worshipped Ziwei. He was overthinking it. Ziwei was just observing the smile fruit-like things, frowning as he muttered. Is this stuff naturally grown, or is it condensed from internal energy or true chi, like old man Zia did? Anyway, I don't need to worry about that kid, Zio Shua. This is a rare opportunity. Thinking this, he reached into his bag for something. Seeing this, the woman panicked. He's about to make his move. Instantly, Ziwei pulled out a dragon-slaying saber. He grinned and said, "Well, let's just chop a piece off and take a look." Meanwhile, on a street corner, the old man who had helped Ziwei that morning was staggering along, wine jug in hand. He was muttering to himself nonstop. Who would have thought this tiny group a competition would have a martial saint expert? It'd be a huge waste not to recruit him for my Wuding sect. Just then a curse echoed from the rooftops. "Damn it, are you insane?" Making him look up in confusion. It was the woman, furiously yelling at Ziwei. "I have this kid in my hands right now. I have a hostage. Damn it, can't you show me a little respect? If not me, at least respect the hostage." Noticing her, the drunken flower heavenly sovereign cursed inwardly. This brat has no respect for anyone, but her aura is quite impressive. Looks like an early-stage martial king. With that thought, he took a closer look. He immediately saw Zio Shua being held hostage by her. He wondered, where are this kid's family? Then, a sharp clanging sound from the rooftop interrupted his thoughts. It was the sound of Ziwei's dragon-slaying saber hacking at the woman's vines, with Yujin cheering him on from behind. The drunken flower heavenly sovereign strained to hear what was happening up there. To his ears, however, the scene sounded like Ziwei was desperately trying to save his disciple, while Yujin was blaming himself to the point of suicide. A classic case of severe mishearing. At the same time on the rooftop, Ziwei's actions had infuriated the malicious woman. She gritted her teeth and warned, "Do you believe I'll kill the hostage right now?" But before she could finish, a beam of spiritual energy suddenly slashed past her, startling her. At the same time, a figure appeared on the roof. The drunken flower heavenly sovereign had successfully rescued Zio Shua. He scolded her indignantly, "You brat, bullying such a small child. There are hundreds of people in the Group A competition, yet you insist on targeting these three. You specialize in picking on the weak." Foiled by him again, the woman yelled in anger, "Where did you come from, old man? Which of your eyes saw me bullying a child? That man was clearly provoking me." The drunken flower heavenly sovereign declared righteously, "I saw it with both my eyes. He doesn't even know how to manifest his chi, he can only stand there hacking with a saber. Look how pathetic he is." His words pushed the woman to her breaking point. She gritted her teeth and screamed, "I've had enough of you. Wei Hun's secret art." The moment she finished speaking, the vine-like things around her began to move. He quickly attacked Zui Hua Tianzan. The old man dodged, but Ziwei was captured. Seeing this, she exclaimed excitedly, "Hiding your true strength to mess with me, huh? Let's see what you've really got." From a distance, Zui Hua Tianzan cursed angrily, "This old hag actually knows the soul-devouring art. This is going to be tough." Hearing this, Zio Shui reassured him, Grandpa, my master is really strong. He'll be fine. Zui Hua Tianzun's heart ached upon hearing this, almost moved to tears. I understand. In a disciple's eyes, their master is always the strongest, the most reliable. He's a good master, all right. He even risked his own weapon trying to save you. Once the soul-devouring art is activated, it can't be stopped easily. The victim's internal energy will be drained until their danshan is empty, turning them into a cripple. I'm afraid Ziwei's chances are slim this time. Just then, a strange change occurred in Ziwei's body. The vines binding him slowly began to unravel. The sight stunned both Zui Hua Tianzun and the woman. She looked at him in disbelief. How is this possible? The soul-devouring art only fails under two conditions. First, the target is an ordinary person with no cultivation base or internal energy whatsoever. Second, the target's strength far surpasses that of the user. The woman was still reeling in confusion. Ziwei slowly opened his eyes. You didn't tie me up very well, and here I thought you were something special. As he broke free, the woman suffered from the backlash, coughing twice. She couldn't understand who Ziwei really was. Even Zui Hua Tianzun was just as bewildered. While everyone was still confused, a figure appeared on the rooftop. It was Hong Xiu. In a flash, she embraced Ziwei. Ziwei stared blankly at the newcomer, asking in confusion, You are. Before he could finish, Hong Xiu gently set him down. She hugged him tightly, calling out, Master. Ziwei was completely lost. She continued to speak in a fawning tone, It's all my fault for being late, forcing you to act personally, Master. But you're still so handsome, dealing with enemies so effortlessly. With that, Hong Xiu handed her spatial ring to him. Look, Master. The ring has exactly 520 participant tokens, symbolizing my eternal love for you. She said that Ziwei must have hidden his identity to participate in the competition to meet the three great sects, remarking on his cunning schemes. Ziwei just stood there, staring blankly at Hong Xiu, not understanding a single word she said. Seeing Ziwei's silence, Hong Xiu's heart broke and she began to cry, You're still angry with me, aren't you? You used to call me Zier. Ziwei looked at her, bewildered, then quickly spoke up. Zier, since when have you been following me? Hong Xiu quickly composed herself and said with a cheerful smile, Of course, it was after you saved me when I was seriously injured. I recognized your aura the moment I saw you. Only then did Ziwei understand. He continued to ask, so the preliminary competition, the black chuan ginseng, and all the stuff Zio Shui picked up. You secretly left all of that? Hong Xiu nodded, of course. Was I helpful to you, Master? You were a huge help, Ziwei replied casually, patting her on the head. No wonder he always felt like someone was watching him. So it was this girl. From the way she acts, she must have been very close to the original owner. I wonder what her relationship with the previous owner was like. I hope my cover isn't blown. Just then Yujin came over and asked, Master, are you okay? You scared me to death just now. Hearing this, Zui Hua Tianzun laughed, Haha, your master is fine. To cause a backlash on an early-stage martial king using the soul-devouring art. Kid, you've been hiding your power well. Although it was brief, that aura above the martial king level was definitely aimed here. When I first saw Ziwei get captured, I thought that woman was just bullying someone weaker. I forgot no ordinary person could participate in this grand competition. Even when facing a difficult situation with your disciple taken hostage. You were unwilling to reveal your true strength and harm her, merely using your blade as a warning. Even when facing that woman's soul-devouring art, you showed no fear. If the enemy doesn't move, I don't move. You're a perfect fit for my Wuding sect. Zui Hua Tianzun smiled with satisfaction. He had to recruit such a promising talent. With that thought, he immediately raised an eyebrow and asked the young man, What's your name? Hearing this, Ziwei glanced at him, silently sneering. Who is this guy? He looks even more like a villain than I do. While Ziwei was pondering, Hong Xiu walked over, frowning. Master, do you need me to take care of him? He asked, puzzled. You know him. Nodding coolly, Hong Xiu replied nonchalantly. I know of him, but he is not worthy of knowing me. If I recall correctly, he is the third elder of the Wuding sect, known in the martial world as Zui Hua Tianzun. Hearing this, Ziwei asked in surprise, Wuding sect, one of the three great sects. Hong Xiu nodded. Yes. Back then we deemed them too poor and their disciples too scattered, so we simply skipped them when issuing challenges to the other sects. Ziwei couldn't help but marvel. You could just ignore them like that? You were so domineering back then. At this moment, Hong Xiu continued. After that, the other sects suspected them of colluding with the demonic cult. If it weren't for the three peak martial emperor elders of the Wuding sect holding down the fort, they probably would have imploded from internal conflict by now. Back in the day, during the demonic cult's peak, even if all the experts of the three great sects showed up together, they couldn't have shaken the demonic cult in the slightest. Although we've fallen on hard times for now, I believe everything will return to its former glory soon. Zui Hua Tianzan, standing at a distance, could only see them chatting and laughing without knowing what they were saying. Finally losing his patience, he said in a low voice, "Kid, I'm talking to you. What's your name? Do you belong to a sect, or have you taken a master yet?" This Ziwei and Hong Ziu finally stopped talking. Squinting at him, Ziwei said slowly, "I am Li Ziwei. Thank you for your help earlier, Senior. May I ask for Senior's name?" Zui Hua Tianzan smiled and said, "The kids in my sect all call me Old Man. Just call me whatever feels natural." Seeing Ziwei bow his head to the old man, a pang of pity rose in Hong Ziu's heart. When has her master ever needed to be so courteous to others? What on earth happened during the time she was searching for him? While she was lost in thought, Yujin approached her. "Miss." Hong Ziu snapped out of her thoughts and glanced at him. He asked shyly, "What's your name? Do you know my master?" Hong Ziu only gave Yujin a look of disdain, and she immediately turned away. She was still feeling very upset inside. If I had been by Master's side to protect him, he wouldn't have had to associate with these ugly commoners. Hong Ziu suddenly thought about bearing Ziwei's children, and the more she thought, the more her face flushed. While she was lost in her fantasy, Zui Hua Tianzan interrupted, "By the way, is this young lady with you all?" As he spoke, he stared at Hong Ziu. Although she wasn't hiding her strength, the aura around her was strange and difficult to grasp. Just then, Ziwei stepped in front of Hong Ziu and said, "This is my cousin. We haven't seen each other in many years. I never expected to run into her here. This girl doesn't like talking to strangers. I hope Senior will forgive her." Hearing this, Zui Hua Tianzan immediately laughed. "Oh, I see. As long as you know each other, it's fine. You all probably know that this grand competition is co-hosted by the three great sects. The goal is to gather experts from all corners of the martial world to compete." Zyro Shua and Yujin's eyes widened as they listened intently. He continued, "But the most fundamental purpose is actually to recruit thousands of talented individuals. And I, this old man, think you kids are quite gifted. I wonder if you're interested in joining my Wuding sect." Without a moment's hesitation, Ziwei waved his hand in refusal. "Thanks. But I'm not really interested." The next morning, in the carriage on the way back, after hearing about yesterday's events, Tiankyu cried out in shock, "You rejected an invitation from the third elder of the Wuding sect." Ziwei replied flatly, "That's right. For some reason, he was dead set on having me and Zyro Shua join the Wuding sect." Tiankyu moved closer to him and asked, puzzled, "So you're really not going?" "Nope, not interested." Ziwei shook his head casually. He said calmly, "Joining someone else's sect, following someone else's rules. What's the point? It's better to create your own sect and live freely." Tiankyu found this idea rather interesting. He wasn't wrong. Out in the world, everyone called her the Saintess of the Myriad Antiquities Pavilion. How many people remembered her real name? Ziwei might not look smart, but he saw things more clearly than anyone. At the same time, a mysterious smile suddenly appeared on Ziwei's face. Looking at the title on the book, he felt it was very eye-catching. When the time comes, I'll use the opportunity to promote it. I'm not worried about no one hearing about the new demonic cult, but I need to come up with a catchy name. I can't just call it the demonic cult. I'll have to discuss it with Hong Ziu later. While he was thinking, the carriage came to a stop. The driver immediately shouted, "Sir, we've arrived." Ziwei quickly jumped out of the carriage and said politely, "Thank you for the ride, Saintess. Would you like to come into the shop for a cup of tea?" Thank you asked, slightly surprised, "You also run a shop?" But before Ziwei could answer, several loud bangs suddenly echoed, and the sky lit up. Ziwei looked inside, surprised. He saw a woman approaching, flanked by 2 rows of servants standing at attention. They shouted in unison, "Congratulations on your triumphant return, Master Dong. Master Dong is wise, divinely martial, and unrivaled in the world." The maidservant walked up to Ziwei and said cheerfully, "Sir, where is our young master? I have something to tell him." Ziwei pointed behind him and said, "Your young master is in the carriage behind us." Just then, Ziafu arrived with Yixi to greet him. "Brother Wei." He hugged Ziwei, laughing. "A few days apart feels like 3 autumns. You're finally back. I've been waiting here since early this morning just to be the first to congratulate you." Seeing this, Yixi was speechless and reminded him, "Father, can you act a little more dignified?" At the same time, Tiankyu stepped out of the carriage and called out Bei Zia, which made Ziafu turn to look. Tiankyu's face was frozen stiff. What was going on? Was this still the Bei Zia she knew? Yixi was the first to react, quickly asking, "Tiankyu, why are you here?" Completely bewildered, Tiankyu shot back, "I'm the one who should be asking that question. Why are you all here? Do you know each other?" Yixi nodded slightly. "Of course we do. He's the one I told you about before. Let me introduce you. This is Li Ziwei." Is introducing his name really the main point? Tiankyu glared at her, annoyed. "Are you kidding me? Uncle Zia is a famously dignified and respectable man. Why is he acting like this in front of this guy? Zia Fu turned and chided her. Even though you're the saintess of the myriad antiquities pavilion, in the martial world, strength reigns supreme. I address Brother Wei as a great master. How can you be so disrespectful when you speak to him? Tianqiu laughed, bewildered. But Uncle Zia, how old are you? Isn't it a bit inappropriate to call a young man your brother? Unconcerned with such details, Zia Fu said casually, as the proverb goes, anyone capable can be a teacher. If Brother Wei hadn't stopped me, I would have even called him father. He was praising Ziwei to the heavens, just short of building an altar for him. This left Tianqiu speechless. She glanced at Yixi and whispered, "What on earth is wrong with your father? Is he normally like this?" Yixi shook her head. "He's fine. He's just a little overly excited, that's all." Tianqiu frowned, skeptical. Overly excited? Did Uncle Zia really have a breakthrough thanks to this Brother Wei of his? Yixi calmly admitted it. "Yes, do you remember the weakness in my father's nine-bend heart-protecting formation?" Tianqiu replied coolly, "Of course. The nine-bend heart-protecting formation is a superior defensive art, but it lacks any offensive moves, making it somewhat passive. Zia Fu has always been looking for a technique to pair with it. Finding one is easier said than done. Forget his formation. How many techniques in the world can actually be merged together?" Ignoring them, Zia Fu focused on his conversation with Ziwei. "Oh right, Brother Wei, could you take a look at this move for me and see if there's anything wrong with it?" A moment later, inside the tea house, Tianqiu clutched her head in disbelief. How did things turn out like this? So this guy is the suspicious person Yixi mentioned before. I think she did say that he had a young child with him. Yixi kept chattering beside her. "You know, even though Brother Wei refuses to show his true power, he's seriously amazing. If he joined the ironclad sect, we'd be unstoppable." Tianqiu felt like not just Yixi, but Zia Fu too had been completely brainwashed by Ziwei. He's just a kid. How strong can he possibly be? Zia Fu is a martial saint. Does he really need to ask for advice from a guy like that? And what's more, I gave a token to someone with such a shady background. Is it too late to get it back? Meanwhile, Zia Fu was demonstrating his techniques for Ziwei. In an instant, a flurry of sword phantoms appeared, seemingly tearing the very air apart. Feeling the disturbance from inside, Tianqiu was instantly alarmed. Outside, Zia Fu formed a palm seal. With a loud crash, the palm strike shattered the ground. When the spiritual energy dissipated, a deep handprint was left imprinted on the ground. Zia Fu looked at Ziwei excitedly. "Brother Wei, what do you think? It's not as powerful as that kid's move, but it's starting to take shape, right?" But as soon as he spoke, he noticed Ziwei was frowning. Zia Fu's heart sank and his expression turned grave. "Was my performance so bad that he has to struggle to find the right words to critique it?" he thought. Zia Fu was reading too much into it. In reality, Ziwei was just completely bewildered. He can actually practice such an incomplete technique? Using this against an enemy is like shooting yourself in the foot, isn't it? But if I maintain the same style as the original owner, they'll never suspect me, right? In their eyes, I'm just a harmless, ordinary person right now. Besides, you have to invest to recruit people. It's no big deal to give out a simplified technique to attract followers. Just then, Tianqiu rushed over. Seeing the scene before her, she was left speechless. Everything Yixi had said was true. Next day, Tianqiu returned to the Myriad Antiquities Pavilion's headquarters. A woman lounged on a throne-like chair while Tianqiu knelt before her. The woman raised an eyebrow and smiled. "You did well this time. With these, His Majesty should quiet down for a while. I just wonder how many people's entire stashes you had to clear out to get this much high-grade black chuan ginseng." Tianqiu reported in a low voice. "Matriarch, all of this black chuan ginseng came from a single person." The matriarch was stunned. Tianqiu slowly explained. "At first, I suspected he was trying to curry favor with our pavilion. He asked for nothing in return, only for 3 spots in the main competition." She added that it was only after she brought them back to Yuhang Town that she felt something wasn't right. "I was thinking, if Ziwei knows how to fuse the 9-bend heart-protecting formation with other techniques, perhaps we could also." But before she could finish, the matriarch cut her off coldly. "That's enough." Startled, Tianqiu immediately fell silent. The matriarch continued. "Tianqiu, have you forgotten who you are? Gu Razors are forbidden from practicing martial arts. Even if you wanted to learn, you'd have to ask the Gu parasite inside you for permission first. Furthermore, as the saintess of the Myriad Antiquities Pavilion, how can you casually associate with just anyone?" Tianqiu fell silent upon hearing this. Unwilling to give in, she stubbornly retorted. "But Sister Yu was able to cultivate to the martial king realm. Not only can she cultivate, but she surrounds herself with handsome men. I just have a feeling this person is not simple. And I merely wanted to befriend him." "Insolent, the matriarch roared, her anger making Tianqiu tremble in fear. She narrowed her eyes and said coldly, "It's rare for me to praise you, and this is how you repay me, by talking back." The matriarch stated that Meng Tianyu was a special case, and that Tianqiu was different. She participated in the competition this time, and has been in a coma from an internal energy backlash ever since. I know you were in charge of Group A's tournament, so I'm ordering you to get to the bottom of this. I want to see who dares to harm someone from my myriad antiquities pavilion. As she spoke, a murderous aura emanated from the matriarch. She gritted her teeth and said, "Daring to harm one of my own, I'll skin whoever did this alive." For many days after, Yuhang Town was buzzing with excitement. Everyone was talking about the winner of the recent tournament. Some were in disbelief, while others were thrilled that such an important figure had come from their small town. The local merchants were also delighted by the booming business. An old woman laughed excitedly. "Our town has been so bustling lately. Business at my shop has improved quite a bit." As the crowd chattered away, a hesitant voice came from behind them. "Pardon the interruption, but could you tell us if there's anywhere in town to stay?" Everyone turned to look, and saw a monk and a young novice monk approaching. The old woman thought for a moment. "Many visitors have come to town recently, so the inns are likely full. The number 1 inn might have vacancies, but it changed ownership some time ago, and it's currently under renovation." Just then the young novice pointed to a stall selling candied fruit on a stick and cried out excitedly, "Senior brother, I want that." Senior brother sighed in resignation but still paid for a skewer of candy for him, reminding him, "The money master gave us is almost gone. You need to be more careful with it." Unfortunately, the carefree novice didn't seem to hear him at all. The senior brother was starting to feel like going back. "First we come to watch some preliminary tournament, then we have to go ask about the elders of the 3 great sects. This trip is exhausting. I'd much rather be back at the temple chanting." But just then, his eyes fell on a scene nearby. Zio Shua walked up with a basket of fruit and said cheerfully to the old woman, "Auntie Hua, I brought you some fruit. Also, my master asked me to let you know that you can bring the supplies to the inn later." Auntie Hua patted the little girl's head and smiled. "All right, I'll bring them over in a bit. How are the renovations going?" "When's the grand opening?" Zio Shua replied enthusiastically. "Tomorrow, please come by and support us, Auntie." Hearing that, Auntie Hua remembered the 2 monks and quickly said, "Oh, that's perfect. This master here is looking for a place to stay." Meanwhile, at Ziwei's inn, everyone was busy hanging the new sign. Tianqiu was also there, directing the work from below. Ziwei came out to see this and spoke with some embarrassment. "To trouble you with such a small matter, Saintess. ... It's really too embarrassing." Tianqiu narrowed her eyes at him and snorted, "Look at the time. Are you just waking up now?" Ziwei yawned and replied nonchalantly, "I've been so busy lately, it's more tiring than working a real job. Now that I finally have some downtime, of course I'm going to sleep in." Then he asked, "Didn't you go back to report on your mission? The competition is over, so why are you still in Yuhang Town?" Hearing this, Tianqiu snorted. "This saintess can go wherever she pleases. I rarely get a chance to have some fun outside, so I'm not going back just yet." Then she asked suspiciously, "By the way, did you happen to meet anyone suspicious in Group A?" Ziwei feigned a timid look and mumbled, "Suspicious people. To be honest, everyone looked suspicious to me." He wondered why she was suddenly asking this. Hong Xiu's identity couldn't have been exposed, he thought. They've never even met. If anyone's suspicious here, it's me. However, after a moment of thought, Tianqiu sighed. "I suppose that's true. Group A was mostly filled with rogue cultivators. It's only natural they'd all be suspicious of one another." Then she asked if Ziwei had seen a woman who could control vines, accompanied by several handsome men. She should have been pretty conspicuous. From her description, Ziwei realized she was talking about that woman from the other night. "What's with this new plot twist?" he thought. He hesitated for a moment, then suggested, "Maybe you should tell me who this woman is first." Without any suspicion, Tianqiu explained, "Her name is Meng Tianyu, a disciple of the Myriad Antiquities Pavilion. The matriarch holds her in high regard. She was seriously injured during the competition, and the matriarch is furious, ordering us to find the person responsible." "I see," Ziwei thought, stunned. All he could do was force a smile. Inside, however, he wasn't smiling at all. "That backlash. I didn't cause that, did I? But I never even made a move. Is this body's power really that immense?" While Ziwei was lost in thought, Zio Shuai returned with the 2 monks. "Master, I'm back," she announced cheerfully, "and I've brought guests." The young novice recognized him and exclaimed, "It's you, the guy who entered the preliminaries with a little kid." Ziwei had no memory of the boy, but he smiled politely. "Oh, fancy meeting you here. Since we have guests, let's head inside the shop to talk." Then he turned to Tianqiu. "Saintess, please come in and have a look around too." With that, the group entered the inn, where many precious treasures were on display. Every item sparkled, dazzling the eye. After looking around, Tiankyu couldn't help but remark, "The decor is quite impressive. No wonder you could part with so much black chu and ginseng." It seems my guess was correct. Ziwei doesn't even hold the three great sects in high regard. And he's capable of helping Xia Fu achieve a breakthrough. Why would someone like that need to curry favor with the Myriad Antiquities Pavilion? Trying to sound friendly, Tiankyu said, "I heard Yixi mention this inn wasn't originally called the number 1 inn. Why the name change?" Before Ziwei could answer, the monk behind him began to speak eloquently. "Transcendence is only found in the martial world, where waves and tides of conflict rage. The meaning is that only in the martial world. ... can one live a life of true freedom. As people of the martial world, we must always be prepared to face storms. When traveling these lands, the most difficult and precious thing to find is peace. An inn is a place that offers temporary respite. Though it exists within the martial world, it hopes for everyone to find a peaceful place to rest. What a grand and noble ideal." At that moment, the monk's admiration for Ziwei grew even stronger. With tears in his eyes, he praised, "What a truly wonderful name." Hearing this, Ziwei was also moved to tears. "You feel that way, too." He never expected to find someone who understood him so well. It felt like he had just found a kindred spirit. The night before, in Ziwei's room, Ziwei and Hong Xiu took the opportunity to talk after everyone else had gone to sleep. Ziwei said calmly, "You've probably heard by now. I've been afflicted by a goo poison and can't use my full power at will. I've successfully made contact with the Ironclad sect and the three great sects. We'll have to see how things unfold before we can restore the demon sect." Hong Xiu had no objections and simply nodded. Yes, Hong Xiu will obey her master's command. Ziwei smiled, satisfied. "You don't need to be so tense. It's just the two of us here. There are a few things I'd like to discuss with you." Hearing this, Hong Xiu's mind raced, and a blush crept onto her cheeks. Just the two of them, and he wanted to discuss a few things. Could it be those kinds of scandalous things? The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. For someone who dreamt of serving her master even in her sleep, this was a thrilling possibility. Unfortunately for her, she was overthinking it. All Ziwei wanted was to ask what she thought of the name Peace Inn. His words left Hong Xiu stunned. "He called me here this late at night, just for this." Back in the present, Ziwei and the monk clasped hands, looking at each other like long-lost soulmates. Listening to them, Tiankyu couldn't help but marvel. So the name really has such a deep meaning. I was too shallow, but was that truly what Ziwei was thinking? The answer was no. As a certain movie once said, the more you try to hide, the easier you are to find. As long as he played it cool, who would ever suspect that the great demon lord Ziwei would be running an inn here? While he was lost in thought, the monk spoke again. "So, patron, may we stay at your establishment?" Without hesitation, Ziwei nodded. "Of course, and there's no need to call me patron. You can call me innkeeper Li." He then had Zio Shua show the two monks to their room. The moment they stepped into the room, their eyes lit up. Everything in the room was brand new. "Senior brother," the young novice immediately jumped onto the bed. The senior monk let out a long, comfortable sigh. "Finally, I can lie down." But the junior monk wasn't about to let him. He shook his senior brother relentlessly. "Senior brother, don't you dare fall asleep." The senior brother closed his eyes, pretending to be asleep. Behaving like that makes a person want to sleep and never wake up. Hearing this, the young novice pouted. "That's not what I meant." But he quickly recovered his spirits. "Master said we would find a great opportunity here in Yuhang Town. How are we supposed to find it if we don't go out and look?" The senior monk sighed. "You weren't thinking about any opportunity when you were running off to watch the commotion earlier. Now you remember. If Master said there's an opportunity, it won't disappear in the next few minutes." The junior monk wouldn't give up. He kept tugging on his senior's sleeve. "Opportunities don't have legs. They won't just come knocking while you're asleep. Get up, senior brother, let's go for a walk." Just then someone entered from outside, startling them both. The senior brother frowned. "Who is it?" The young novice quickly ran outside to check. He returned a moment later with a fruit basket. "A handmaiden brought this," he said cheerfully. "It's a gift for the grand opening. Remember to thank them. Go ahead and eat. Just let me sleep for a bit." The senior brother mumbled dismissively and yawned. "Master only told us to come to Yuhang Town. He never specified what this opportunity was. Either way, he decided to sleep first. He'd need his energy to find whatever it was." But just as he closed his eyes, his junior brother's shout jolted him awake again. He sat up annoyed. "What is it now?" The young novice held out the basket. "Hey, look at this." He stammered, "This is—" Before he could finish, the senior brother's eyes nearly popped out of his head. A wide grin spread across his face. "The opportunity, it's here." Meanwhile, outside the Peace Inn, Auntie Hua arrived with a group of people. "Little Li, she said with a laugh. You've renovated this place to look like a palace. You wouldn't find another inn like this in the entire Central Plains. Then she presented him with a wreath. Unfortunately, it looked exactly like a funeral wreath. All it was missing was a portrait to complete the morbid scene. Being from the modern world, Ziwei knew exactly what it looked like. He couldn't say anything, so he just forced a smile. Thank you, Auntie Hua, but why does this design look so familiar? Auntie Hua slapped his shoulder good-naturedly. Ha, for the grand opening tomorrow, I'll be here to support you. This kid was pushed around for so long, seeing him as an innkeeper now. I'm still getting used to it. But it's good that Ziwei is an innkeeper now. He can protect those kids. She had practically watched them grow up, after all. Ziwei was surprised. Those kids, you mean Zyro Shui? Auntie Hua just waved her hand. Let's not talk about that now, I have to go, you stay busy. And please remember to bring your friends tomorrow to support us. Ziwei nodded and handed her a basket of fruit. Oh right, these are fruits I grew myself. Please take them and try some. Just as he finished speaking, a shout came from behind. Patron, wait! Ziwei froze. It was the senior monk. The sacred fruit that was stolen 2 years ago. So this is the opportunity Master was talking about. Why would the sacred fruit appear here? Filled with doubt, the monk quickly appeared before Ziwei and said, Pardon me. Before Ziwei could react, he uncovered the basket, revealing several wild fruits identical to the ones in his room. Just as he thought, he eagerly asked, Patron, where did you get these fruits? Ziwei looked at him, confused. You mean these custard apples? I grew them. You grew them? The monk cried out in disbelief, shocked by his words. In case he didn't believe him, Ziwei led him to see for himself. Seeing what was in front of him, the monk's eyes nearly fell out of their sockets. Looking at the orchard of custard apple trees, he was completely stunned. He really grew them. And there are so many. This opportunity is bigger than I ever imagined. Ziwei didn't understand the source of the monk's shock. He explained as he picked some fruit. My disciple found these. Zyro Shui likes them, so I thought I'd try planting a few. But as he spoke, he suddenly paused. For some reason, the monk had started crying. Covered his mouth, sobbing sorrowfully. Master always said the sacred fruit was so precious. The branches of the fruit tree in the temple are balder than my own head. It hasn't borne fruit in over a decade. 2 years ago, it finally produced a few fruits, but they were stolen before they were even ripe. To see such a sight in my lifetime. The sheer sacred aura is blinding. A little bewildered, Ziwei approached him with a custard apple. Please don't cry. Are these fruits really that good? How about you take some back with you? You can help promote my inn while you're at it. The monk quickly spoke. Patron, do you know why this sacred fruit tree is so lush? We have a similar tree in our temple, but it has never been this vibrant. Ziwei's interest was piqued. Where is your temple built? What's the climate like? The monk replied. Wuchan Temple is on the peak of Spirit Peak. Under the influence of a formation, it's like spring all year round. Ziwei finally understood the problem and sighed. Well, there's your answer. Custard apples are a tropical fruit. Of course, they won't grow in an environment like that. When you're growing things, you can't just wish for them to grow. You have to understand the plant's habits and create a suitable environment for it. The monk didn't understand a single word. What was a tropical fruit? What was a custard apple? What did he mean by different plants need different environments? But Ziwei didn't explain any further. The monk didn't ask again. He held the custard apple in his hand, lost in thought. Wuchan Temple thought it was giving the sacred fruit the best care, but we completely ignored what the sacred fruit actually needed. Suddenly, he had an epiphany. It was as if his entire world had been illuminated. Meanwhile, at the Peace Inn, a man and a woman stood before the door. They were from the Spirit Sword sect. The man, Lu Renjia, grumbled, This inn looks ordinary enough. Why hasn't the innkeeper come to open the door yet? The woman beside him chimed in. It's an inn, but it's not open for business. How strange, making senior brother Lu and the rest of us wait here for so long. Just then someone came out, holding a fan in his hand. It was Yu Jin. He raised an eyebrow at the two. Are you guests looking for a room? He also informed them that the inn wouldn't officially open until tomorrow. The moment she saw Yu Jin, the woman sneered contemptuously. So someone finally decided to open up. Do you have any idea who we are? You really think we're dying to stay in this rundown shack? Yu Jin didn't get angry at her words. He simply let out a cold laugh. He was no longer the person he used to be. Then he snorted, looking for trouble? You should first ask who I am. You dare call my masters in a shack? You've got some nerve. I already told you we open tomorrow. His words only enraged the woman from the Spirit Sword sect further, and she moved to strike him. Just then Renjia stepped in. Junior sister, do not be rude. He then turned to Yu Jin and said politely, I am Lu Renjia, the head disciple of the Spirit Sword sect. The other inns in town are full. Could you perhaps make an exception and let us stay? Yu Jin wasn't listening. He pouted and said, So you do know how to speak properly. Didn't you hear what I said before? This inn belongs to my master. With that, he pointed at the woman and scolded her. Besides, didn't your little junior sister just call this place a shack? You esteemed members of the Spirit Sword sect are far too noble. I'm afraid this humble shop can't accommodate such important figures. Being called out so directly, Renjia's junior sister shouted in anger. What nonsense are you spouting? Renjia once again stepped in to stop her. Junior sister, calm down. Sir, my junior sister is just hot-headed. She didn't mean it that way. With that, he put on a sincere smile and asked, I was wondering where the innkeeper is. Might I have a word with him? Jin scoffed. My master is with a guest and isn't available, announcing your name the moment you arrive. Isn't that just a roundabout way of using your status to bully people? Renjia had, in fact, intended to do just that, but his title as the head disciple of the Spirit Sword sect didn't seem to faze the boy. What is the background of this inn? He wondered. While he was pondering, his junior sister said indignantly, Senior brother, look at that condescending smirk on his face. He needs to be taught a lesson. As soon as she finished speaking, she drew her sword, and without another word, she lunged forward. The woman was just putting on a show, wondering why Renjia wasn't stopping her. Renjia did indeed tell her to stop. Junior sister, don't be rash. But it was a half-hearted attempt, as he wanted to see who was really backing this inn. And so, a loud explosion suddenly erupted from the peace inn, catching the attention of Zia Fu and Tiankyu, who were in the middle of a conversation. Tiankyu frowned. That sound came from that Leaf Fellow's inn. Zia Fu's expression turned grim. Who would be so bold as to cause trouble there? Meanwhile, in the Peace Inn's custard apple orchard, Ziu was still explaining how to cultivate the fruit to the monk. Just then he heard the loud commotion in the distance and paused. But Ziwei didn't think much of it, simply remarking, This town is certainly lively. Come to think of it, he had been in this world for quite some time now. Through his hard work, everything was finally falling into place. Ziwei was certain that before long, his Peace Inn would become a legendary name in the martial world. As he was daydreaming about this bright future, Yi ran in from outside. Something's happened at your inn, she cried out in a panic. Outside the inn's entrance, the aftermath of an explosion hung in the air, a thick cloud of dust and smoke obscuring everything. Just beyond the smoke, Renjia was holding his injured junior sister, his face dark. Although his junior sister had a stubborn personality, her martial arts skills were considered top-tier among her peers. To be repelled in a single move, it seemed Yu Jin was a formidable opponent. But when Renjia looked closer, he discovered a shocking truth. The one who had injured his junior sister was a mere child. At that moment, his junior sister sat up. With a look of disdain, she shouted, I don't know where that little brat came from. He must have some rare treasure on him that just happened to block my attack. I refuse to believe he can block it a second time. With that, her aura shifted again, and she gripped her sword, ready to charge. But Renjia stopped her. Junior sister, leave this to me. And he looked at Zio Shua and said, Since we are all martial artists, why don't we have a proper duel? If I win, you'll let us stay. How about it? Zio Shuai blocked his junior sister's attack earlier. There was no fluctuation of internal energy. It must be just as his junior sister suspected. The child was just relying on some defensive artifacts. Renjia thought to himself, I am a distinguished disciple of the Spirit Sword sect. I only lowered myself to speak to these commoners to maintain my sect's image. If I don't regain some face now, won't I become a laughingstock? At this thought, a triumphant smile spread across Renjia's face. Immediately after, he charged towards Zio Shua with his sword. Zio Shua was completely unafraid of the technique he was preparing. A wisp of internal energy appeared around her. He didn't hold back, landing a palm strike right on Renjia's face, swelling it up like a pig's head, and sent him flying. Seeing this, his junior sister, who was still on the ground, screamed in fury, How dare you hurt my senior brother? I'll make you pay. As soon as she spoke, she charged forward again like a moth to a flame. She thought to herself, no matter how powerful this kid is, he's just a fist fighter. It's always been known that fist techniques are strong on offense, but weak on defense. The junior sister managed to distract Zio Shua, taking the opportunity to appear behind him. She smiled triumphantly, took the bait, now die. Without a moment's hesitation, she thrust the tip of her sword towards Zio Shua's head. A moment later, because of the brawl, the newly hung-in sign was dangling precariously, about to fall. Ziafu and Tiankyu arrived to find a complete mess. What happened here? They wondered. Renjia's junior sister was now crawling on the ground, muttering incessantly. Impossible, she looked like a madwoman. Her face was pale as a sheet. She couldn't comprehend how many different cultivation techniques Zio Shui knew. Hadn't her own master said that a martial artist could only master one technique in their entire lifetime? At the same time, Ziwei and Yi also came outside. Looking around, he frowned and asked, "Is the trouble over? Can someone tell me what's going on?" The moment he finished speaking, Yu-jin came over holding Zio Shuai and began to wail, "Master! Thank goodness for senior brother. If not for him, you would have never seen this disciple again." He then animatedly recounted the entire event for everyone, complete with wild gestures. Meanwhile, Renjia, who had been playing dead, opened his eyes when he heard Yu-jin say the word master. He secretly observed Ziwei from a distance. To be able to teach such a strange child, this master must be anything but simple. Things have gotten out of hand. I should get out of here first. The situation changed in an instant. The talking crowd was startled by a shout. They turned to see the culprit Renjia hightailing it out of there, promising, "Junior sister, just you wait. I'll go get reinforcements," before disappearing from her sight. She froze, muttering tragically, "You could have at least taken me with you. Why did you have to run off so suddenly?" Ziwei looked up at the disappearing figure in the sky and couldn't help but remark, "He's a fast runner." Tiankyu rushed over and asked doubtfully, "You're not going to stop him. You're just going to let him go get back up. This could mean trouble." Ziwei shrugged nonchalantly. "Just some random passers-by. If he wants to run, let him run. You're not afraid of trouble. My only fear is that there won't be any. After all, every main character needs a lot of conflict." He understood that well. With that thought, Ziwei pointed towards the junior sister and spoke. "Besides, don't we still have a hostage?" Hearing this, the junior sister panicked. Yu-jin added cheerfully, boasting, "Do you have any idea who my master is? My master can kill a martial king without even moving a muscle. I don't care if they're from the spirit sword sect or whatever. As long as master is here, he can kill them in one move." Tiankyu overheard this and mumbled doubtfully, "Killing a martial king without moving. Isn't that a bit of an exaggeration?" Yi, who was beside him, quickly explained, "It's no exaggeration. I once saw him destroy a room with a flick of his fingers just because it wasn't big enough." Ziafu cut to the chase. "If they're really from the spirit sword sect, then this is serious trouble." Elsewhere, in a large hall, a crowd had gathered. Just then a disciple ran in from outside, shouting in panic, "Sect master, bad news." Before he could finish, he was sent flying by a palm strike. Someone snorted coldly, "Fool! Didn't I tell you? I am in a meeting with the other sect masters. No one is to disturb us." This man was Ren-I, the sect master of the spirit sword sect, an early-stage martial saint. Ying Yue, the mistress of Yue Mayan Pavilion, raised an eyebrow and chuckled, as expected of someone who has reached the martial saint realm. Sect Master Ren's aura is on a whole new level now. Don't be so quick to anger. Perhaps the boy has urgent news. Hearing this, Gong Ziqing, the master of the Green Mountain sect, also smiled. "That's right, our business can wait. Sect Master Ren, please attend to your matters first." Ren-I turned to look at the disciple. Frowned and asked, "Speak, what is it?" The disciple clutched his wound and replied with a trembling voice, "Senior brother Lu. Senior brother Lu is back." Yue Mayan frowned. "Your senior brother Lu? You don't mean Lu Renjia, do you?" Ren-I nodded slightly. "Some time ago, Renjia took his junior sister down the mountain for training. He must have made some progress if he's back now. Since both of you sect masters are here, go and call Renjia to come pay his respects." But the disciple replied in a panic, "Sect master, I'm afraid senior brother Lu won't be able to come." As soon as he said that, Ren-I roared in anger. "What? Does he need me to personally invite him?" Seeing this, Zai Ching chuckled placatingly. "Sect Master Ren, don't be hasty. Perhaps the boy is preparing some kind of surprise for you. You know how kids are. My own son loves to do things like this." With that, he pulled the woman beside him closer and continued with a smile, "If he can't come to us, then why don't we go to him?" But at that very moment, Renjia burst in from outside, sobbing uncontrollably. His face was swollen up like a pig's head, a truly unsightly mess. Yue Mayan recoiled as if she'd seen something filthy and said with a sneer, "Sect Master Ren, it's been a few months. How has your prized disciple ended up in such a state?" Ren-I stormed down, grabbed Renjia by the collar, and demanded, "What happened to you? Where is your junior sister?" Renjia wailed, "My junior sister and I were traveling in Yuhang town and tried to find an inn for the night. I spoke to them politely, but the innkeeper's thugs suddenly attacked me and gravely injured me. He said he managed to escape when no one was looking, but his junior sister was captured." Everyone listened to his story in silence. When the woman next to Zai Ching heard the words, "Yuhang town," she fell deep into thought. Meanwhile, back at the Peace Inn, everyone was busy cleaning up. Ziwei stood opposite Zia Fu and said gratefully, "Thank you, brother Zia. If it weren't for your help, we'd never have finished in time." Zia Fu replied warmly, "Brother Away, don't be so formal with me. To be honest, I'm ashamed this is the only way I can help." He told him that although the ironclad sect sounded powerful, they couldn't interfere in the affairs of the martial world. And while the spirit sword sect didn't have many disciples, They were not to be trifled with. He asked Ziwei if he knew why the three great sects were holding the Who Dares Cross Swords with Me competition. Ziwei thought for a moment before answering, to recruit talented individuals. Ziafu nodded grimly. That's right. To be more precise, it's to expand their own power. Back then, the demon lord Ziwei slaughtered countless martial artists and annihilated numerous sects. The remaining sects had to band together to survive. It was either decline into oblivion, or devour one another. Devour one another? Ziwei asked, his eyebrows knitting in surprise. Ziafu nodded. Correct. The strong preying on the weak. It's a phenomenon that exists everywhere. And the Spirit Sword sect is one of those that grew strong by forming alliances and absorbing other sects. The two chatted for a while longer before heading back. The next day, the peace inn officially opened. Firecrackers exploded everywhere, and a bustling crowd gathered at the entrance. At the same time, on a balcony across the street, someone was quietly observing the peace inn. It was Ren-E and his group. He snorted, for such a small place. It seems we've brought quite the entourage. Yue Mayan shook her head and disagreed. Not necessarily. Take a closer look, Sect Master Ren. He pointed to the wreaths below and chuckled. In my Ying Yue pavilion, wreaths like that are used for funerals. Perhaps our opponent anticipated our arrival and did this on purpose. They even wrote the word celebration on it to mock us. Hearing this, Ren-E snorted coldly and gave an order. Listen up, seize everyone in that inn. If you catch their leader, bring them to me. Meanwhile, the woman next to Zai Qing stared at the inn, lost in thought. While she was thinking, Zai Qing came up and wrapped his arms around her. What is my beautiful darling thinking about so seriously? Oh, that's right. You're from Yuhang Town, aren't you? He said that after they were done here, he would take her home for a visit. He also knew she had a younger sister. The woman wanted to resist. Before she could say anything, Zai Qing's wandering hand squeezed her waist. He asked coldly, "What, do you intend to disobey me?" The woman fearfully replied, "No, of course not. It is my honor that the sect master is willing to take me home for a visit." With a soft snort, Zai Qing said coldly, "Good girl. This town is practically on the doorstep of my Green Mountain sect, as long as you wish. I can bring you here for a stroll any time in the future." "Thank you, sect master." The woman replied perfunctorily, then looked down at the inn below. She couldn't be mistaken. This inn was clearly the first inn. Now that the inn's name has changed, could it have a new owner? If so, what has become of her little sister? At the same time, inside the inn, a woman was fuming. It was Renjia's junior sister. She paced back and forth, muttering curses. "Damn it, how dare they lock me up? When my senior brother returns with reinforcements, I'll have them all skinned and turned into lanterns." Just as she finished, Ziwei's head popped in from outside. "You know, that line makes you sound more like the villain than I do." Her threat startled her so much she jumped. Ziwei paid her no mind, strolling in with a smile. "Besides, weren't you the one who insisted on staying? Now your wish has been granted. You should be happy." With that, he placed a bowl of food on the table. "Here, have something to eat." The junior sister stared at the bowl in confusion. "What's this? Is Ziwei really kind enough to bring me food? Did he hear what I just said?" Seeing her silence, Ziwei spoke again. "What's wrong?" "I made this myself. You don't want to eat?" His master once told him that treating hostages well is a fine quality. For a villain to be this benevolent, it's enough to bring a tear to anyone's eye. However, in the junior sister's eyes, Ziwei's expression was full of sinister intent. He definitely put something nasty in it. As expected, he's up to no good. But as soon as she had that thought, her traitorous stomach let out a loud growl. "Damned if I eat, damned if I don't." So the junior sister picked up the bowl and started eating. Even if she was going to die, she'd die as a well-fed ghost. Just like that, she finished the entire large bowl. It felt like a bolt of lightning had struck her soul. The junior sister never expected poison could taste this good. Was this heaven? But soon she felt something was wrong. She started to cry internally. This poison is working way too fast. Just then a voice suddenly rang out from outside. "Sect Master, is this your kidnapped disciple?" The junior sister immediately stopped crying. She quickly turned her head and saw Ren-E appearing with his men. Yue also looked up at them and sighed helplessly. "They got here fast, didn't they? My poor, disaster-prone inn." Just like that, they had destroyed his roof. Ren-E looked down from above and asked coldly, "Are you the owner of this inn?" As he spoke, he secretly observed Ziwei. The young man had no aura of a martial artist, just as Renjia had said. With that thought, he spoke again, coldly, "You gravely injured my beloved disciple and kidnapped a disciple of my spirit sword sect. Hand over that little brat, and I will grant you a clean death." As he finished speaking, a phantom sword materialized in Ren-E's hand. Ziwei wasn't the least bit afraid. Sighing helplessly, passerby A just left and now passerby B shows up. Such a classic trope. Hearing this, the junior sister was stunned. Not only did he know her senior brother, but he also knew her master. That means he knew their identities from the start, and attacked them anyway. But she quickly refuted her own thought. No, wait, Ziwei mentioned a classic trope. Does that mean he's pulled this stunt many times before? This ordinary appearance must be a disguise. Who are you really? Receiving no answer, Ren-E grew impatient. You refused to hand him over. Then don't blame me for being merciless. The moment he finished speaking, he struck. A phantom sword shot towards Ziwei. Seeing this, the junior sister screamed, Master, stop. This is a trap, he's pretending. Hearing this, Ren-E panicked for a moment. He tried to retract his attack, but it was impossible. The phantom sword continued to fly like the wind. Yi saw it coming too. Instead of helping, she shouted a warning, everyone get back. Beside her, Tiankyu cried out in fear, Yi, watch out. Yi turned her head upon hearing his cry. Her eyes widened at the approaching attack. In the nick of time, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Yi, blocking the phantom sword with their own. But because their face was covered, Yi couldn't tell who it was. The person who suddenly appeared was Hong Xiu. Why was she wearing a mask, you ask? For that, we have to go back to the night before. Ziwei had suggested she do so, much to her surprise. Ziwei had said confidently, trust me, I know this trick well. It's the legendary unbreakable law, as long as you wear a mask, no one can recognize you. With this assurance, Hong Xiu was convinced. So today, when she appeared before everyone, she kept her face covered. Hong Xiu stood defiantly beside Ziwei, facing off against Ren-E. At this point, Ziwei was the first to lodge a complaint. Not only did you destroy my inn, but you also openly attacked a constable of the ironclad sect and innocent civilians. Is this how the esteemed spirit sword sect conducts itself? Tiankyu ran over and asked Ziwei worriedly. Yi, are you too hurt? When Ren-E saw her, his expression soured. The clothes she wore were from the Myriad Antiquities Pavilion, and there were also people from the ironclad sect and a bunch of commoners. This was trouble. He had been too eager to show off. He never expected this unexpected complication. Plus, his disciple said this was a trap. Could it be that his opponent planned this intentionally? While Ren-E was lost in thought, Yue Mayan let out a soft laugh. This is more lively than I imagined. With that, she glanced at Yi, and at Tiankyu, she sneered. A constable from the ironclad sect and the saintess of the Myriad Antiquities Pavilion are here too. With them, 3 others. A rich-looking fool, a normal-looking simpleton, and a very suspicious kid. At this point, Yue Mayan seemed to remember something, and exclaimed in surprise. Aren't these the top 3 from the recent martial arts tournament? Even the person from the Myriad Antiquities Pavilion was so severely injured in the arena that they still haven't woken up. Be able to snatch the championship from a crowd of martial kings with such a decisive victory. Truly remarkable. As soon as she said this, the surrounding crowd began to whisper amongst themselves. Most of it was words of suspicion directed at Ziwei. These words reached Ziwei's ears, and he couldn't help but shoot her a sideways glance. This was exactly the situation Yue Mayan wanted. She smirked and said, indeed. I'm quite curious myself. How did an ordinary person with no martial prowess not only suddenly become an innkeeper, but also win first place in the tournament? The more Ziwei listened, the angrier he got. He pursed his lips and said, if you have something to say, say it. Don't talk nonsense. Where did this woman even come from? She figured out the problem in just a few sentences. While he was bewildered, Hong Xiu leaned in and whispered in his ear, Master, I know this person. She's an information broker, the mistress of the Ying Yue Pavilion, Yue Mayan. Ziwei asked, a little surprised, how do you know everyone? Hong Xiu didn't answer, simply continuing. This woman is a master of stirring up trouble. Under the guise of eliminating the demonic cult, she goes everywhere causing chaos. The martial world's hatred for the demonic cult is largely her doing. After hearing this, Ziwei fell into a long silence before asking in a low voice. So the image of the demonic cult as evildoers was all created by her? Was I really framed? Hong Xiu shook her head and retorted. Not at all, Master. Someone as grand and mighty as you, how could you be as pathetic as they describe? Any random nobody dares to claim they're from our demonic cult. Are they even worthy? Ziwei's heart skipped a beat. Did this mean the demonic cult was actually even more brutal than the rumors? Had this woman not even spread enough propaganda? With that thought, he quickly tried to calm her down. Zier, calm down. Remember what I told you. Hong Xiu nodded slightly. Yes, Master, don't worry, Master. When anyone asks about the demonic cult, we must adhere to the 3 principles. Not acquainted, not related, and don't know them. Just then, Yi suddenly shouted aggressively, I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't know what you're implying. But we at the Ironclad sect have already investigated the identity of Brother Away, Li Ziwei. 2 years ago, Li Ziwei came to Yuhang Town. He worked as a waiter at the first inn. His background is clean. Both parents are deceased with only a cousin whose whereabouts are unknown. She said he was friendly and never caused trouble. This inn was bought and gifted to him by Yu Jin. As for Ziwei winning first place, it's perfectly normal for someone who has been secretly practicing martial arts to achieve success and hide their skills. Hearing this, Ziwei was shocked. Is she a mind reader? Why did she secretly investigate me? But if what she said was true, then wouldn't that make me incredibly cool? Specifically choose a persona with deceased parents for my alias, and not forget to place my subordinate as a distant relative. I've been building a harmless image for myself for years. So the original owner really did think of all these things. Was I too harsh on him before, as expected of a leader of the martial world, truly brilliant? However, everything he was thinking was just one big misunderstanding. At this moment, Yue Mayan spoke again calmly. Of course, I believe the words of someone from the ironclad sect. But I must offer a reminder. I heard from the master of the Green Mountain sect that remnants of the demonic cult have recently appeared in Yuhang town. When things are this unusual, there is definitely a problem. I'm also worried that a remnant of the demonic cult might have assumed someone's identity to infiltrate our group. Hearing this, the woman beside Zai Qing immediately retorted. No, that's not it. He's definitely not a member of the demonic cult. Zio Shui, who had been silent all this time, suddenly cried out, Sister. Ziwei couldn't help but be surprised. There's a hidden character. The woman paid him no mind and continued. I met him 2 years ago. I can see the aura on every person, and his aura is exactly the same as it was 2 years ago. This statement shocked Ziwei. Something like an aura can be seen. Before he could even process it, he saw something. A wisp of demonic energy seemed to emerge from the woman's body, connecting to the aura within Zai Qing. Ziwei frowned in shock. What is this? Just then Hong Xiu suddenly cried out. It's the Heavenly Maiden. Ziwei was bewildered once again. The Heavenly Maiden, the one I'm thinking of. While he was confused, Hong Xiu continued. Master, you personally gave the order to find the Heavenly Maiden. Even after you went missing, you repeatedly sent orders for me to continue the investigation. Have you forgotten? Giant question mark appeared in Ziwei's mind. That happened. He hid his awkwardness and stammered an explanation. The goo poison in my body has been acting up. I've forgotten many important things. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a chill run down his spine. Hong Xiu came up from behind and said in a cold voice, Perhaps a little verification is in order. Hearing this, Ziwei trembled with fear. Oh crap, she's making her move. Thought he was about to be beaten, but instead she pulled open his shirt. Hong Xiu narrowed her eyes and stared at his chest. There was no red mole. She had no doubts, simply assuming his disguise was too perfect. Even the small detail only she knew was flawlessly hidden. Thinking this, Hong Xiu cursed in frustration. Those damn people from the Myriad Antiquities Pavilion. They not only made Master lose all his powers, but his memories as well. As she said this, she suddenly remembered, but didn't Master save me while he had amnesia? The more she thought, the redder her cheeks became. What a love-struck fool. Meanwhile, the woman next to Zai Qing was observing Zio Shui. According to Sect Master Lu, Ziwei's disciple was gravely injured by a child, and next to that child was a rich young master and an ordinary person. Looking at it this way, that child looked exactly like her little sister. As she was reeling from this realization, a hand suddenly landed on her shoulder. Girl jumped in fright. Oh no, I was in such a rush to help Away get off the hook I forgot about this old bastard. Zai Qing approached her like a demon. He snorted coldly. Are you saying, my beauty, that you can vouch for him? Before the girl could answer, Zai Qing grabbed her hair and yanked her back. He growled through clenched teeth. I don't care if he's a demonic cult remnant or not, to speak up for another man in front of me. Have you forgotten your place? It seems I've been too lenient with you. Overwhelmed by pain, the girl quickly apologized. Zai Qing just said coldly, It seems I'll have to teach you a lesson. His words made the woman's face turn pale, which only excited Zai Qing more. He pulled her hair tighter and squeezed her neck, ignoring her trembling pleas. Seeing this, Ziwei knew he couldn't just stand by. That technique looks familiar. It's a demonic cult art. This Heavenly Maiden title sounds impressive. Even my original self ordered a search for her. She must be special, someone useful. I have to save her. With that thought, Ziwei immediately gave the order. Zior, get her. Hong Xiu was obedient. In a flash, she was in front of Zai Qing, snatching the woman away. She moved so fast, Zai Qing couldn't react in time. Yue Mayan was a bit faster, immediately shouting, engage. Seeing this, Hong Xiu pulled the woman aside to dodge. Almost at the same instant, Yue Mayan lunged forward like a lightning bolt. Hong Xiu found the girl a nuisance, so she simply tossed her to the side. Then she charged in to fight Yue Mayan. Zio Shui ran to the woman's side, calling out worriedly, Sister. The woman shook her head reassuringly. I'm fine. As soon as she finished, she crawled over to Ziwei and said urgently, Is that young lady your friend? Those 4 over there. She can't handle them all. Before Ziwei could say anything, Yi suddenly exclaimed, So strong. In the air, 2 powerful streams of energy were clashing. Ziafu had told Yi that these people were no pushovers. Yet Hong Xiu was able to take on 3 of them effortlessly, and even easily wound 1. Thinking this, Yi pursed her lips. No wonder my father said that if something happened, I wasn't allowed to intervene. In a scene like this, me stepping in would just cause more trouble. In the midst of the battle, Hong Xiu was fiercely engaged with Ren Yi. Yue Mayan saw this as a golden opportunity. So while Hong Xiu was distracted, she launched a sneak attack. Hong Xiu was taken by surprise, but still managed to dodge. The blow knocked off her face covering and left a small scratch on her face. Just like that, her true face was revealed to everyone. Yi immediately recognized her and exclaimed in shock, That's the demonic cult remnant Hong Xiu. As she said this, she glanced at Ziwei. Then, doesn't that make you a remnant of the demonic cult too? At this moment, Ziwei appeared calm on the surface, but inside, he was panicking. How could my 100% guaranteed anti-recognition divine artifact fail at a time like this? While he was panicking, Yi spoke up, Brother Away, you and this person. Before he could answer, Ren-Yi snorted coldly. He sneered, Woman of the ironclad sect, are you just going to stand there and watch the show? A demonic cult remnant has appeared. This is no longer about sectarian disputes in the martial world. With that, he pointed at Ziwei and Hong Xiu, demanding sternly, Arrest these 2 now, or I'll suspect your ironclad sect of colluding with the demonic cult in secret. His words infuriated Yi, who shot back, Bullshit. My ironclad sect is righteous and fears nothing. How could we be involved with demonic cult remnants? Besides, she wanted to arrest them but couldn't. They just arrived at the 3 great sects this morning. Why did they have to choose today of all days? Over here, Ziwei was trying to calm himself down. Don't panic. He took a deep breath and chuckled coldly. Haha, you say who's a demonic cult remnant? It's obvious just by looking who the real demon is. With that, he glanced at Yi and added, Miss Zia, can't you all see the demonic energy on him? His words instantly shocked everyone. Even Hong Xiu was a bit confused. She said in a low voice, Master, although I don't know what this demonic energy you speak of is, you once said your techniques are no ordinary thing. If they're not ordinary, then ordinary people probably can't see this demonic energy either. Hong Xiu mentioned that, although Zai Qing has the aura of the demonic cult, he has no impression of this person whatsoever. He's not from the demonic cult. He must have secretly learned our techniques, a cheap imitation at best. Just then, a disciple worriedly approached Zai Qing to give him healing medicine, but his expression was extremely grim. Frightening the disciple, after her long explanation, Hong Xiu heard no reply from Ziwei. A bit confused, she called out, Master. But Ziwei was currently crying out in frustration. Is this thing only visible to me and the readers? I thought everyone could see it. He just stood there muttering to himself, his face a picture of despair. Worried he was losing it, Hong Xiu quickly tried to calm him. Master, be calm. But Ziwei was still lost in thought. This was supposed to be the epic moment he had prepared for so long. How could it all go wrong now? This is infuriating. But just then, Ziwei had a sudden stroke of genius. There's still a Wu Fa heavenly maiden here. She can definitely see it. Thinking this, his eyes lit up as he looked at the woman. Unfortunately, the so-called heavenly maiden couldn't see it either. In an instant, Ziwei froze, his hopes dashed. Fine, this must be my fate. Even though I can't use my techniques with my original self's power, escaping unharmed won't be a problem. I can just take Zio Shua and that beautiful lady, find a new place and start over. That's not a bad option either. Thinking this, Ziwei decided to show his hand. He declared aggressively, I'm done acting, I am. But before he could finish, a loud scream cut him off. Oh my God, it really is the demonic cult. Ziwei gritted his teeth in anger and cursed. What are you screaming for? Couldn't you wait until after my grand introduction? When he turned around, he saw Tianqiu trembling and muttering, Li Ziwei, look behind you. Ziwei was a bit confused. What, is there a ghost behind me? Why are you so scared? Ziwei looked back. He saw Zai Qing enveloped in a cloud of demonic energy, screaming madly, Damn it, you damn thing, you dare cut off my arm. I'll kill you all. At this point, Zai Qing had nearly gone insane, his eyes completely vacant. Ziwei watched this scene, speechless. Talk about a plot twist. The special effects were invisible before, but now that their eyes and ears have mutated, they can see it, huh? Seeing this, a flash of panic appeared in Ren-Yi's eyes. Damn it, young Master Qing, that idiot! With that thought, he attacked Zai Qing, a sword piercing straight through his body. Hearing the words demonic cult, the townspeople nearby started to flee in chaos. Hong Xiu glanced at Ziwei and asked worriedly, "Master, what now?" The sect master of the Spirit Sword sect has always claimed to be righteous. For the sake of his reputation, he'll definitely find a way to kill that waste of space to prove his innocence. Ziwei chuckled softly and said casually, "Judging by his reaction, he doesn't seem like someone who's clueless about the situation. If he kills that guy, won't I lose my chance to shine?" As he said this, he paused for a long moment before speaking. "Zier, remember this? From now on, we are the good guys who eliminate the remnants of the demonic cult, acting on behalf of heaven." As he finished, Ziwei broke into a very smug smile. Elsewhere, Zia Fu and the Drunken Flower Heavenly Venerate were using their lightness skill to head this way, talking about Ziwei as they went. The Drunken Flower Heavenly Venerate, as usual, held a wine jug. He laughed cheerfully. "I never expected such a coincidence. I was wondering where to find that kid after the tournament. From what Zia Fu said, I learned Ziwei opened an inn. No wonder he wasn't willing to join the Wuding sect." After hearing this, Zia Fu laughed and said, "I think Brother Away was probably afraid of the restrictions that come with joining a major sect. Establishing his own unconstrained faction and opening an inn is a pretty good choice." The Drunken Flower Heavenly Venerate, not giving up on his attempt to recruit him, continued, "But an interesting kid like him is bound to attract attention. It hasn't been long, and he's already provoked the Spirit Sword sect. In the martial world, having a backer is still more important." On the contrary, Zia Fu, afraid his esteemed friend would be poached, said calmly, "Compared to getting into trouble, I think he dislikes relying on others and being restricted more. I believe that if one is strong enough, they can be their own backer." The Drunken Flower Heavenly Venerate still wouldn't let it go. "After all, I made this entire trip just to recruit that kid." "So this is the kid's inn?" Zia Fu nodded slightly. "Looks like the Spirit Sword sect has already arrived." But just as he finished his sentence, a loud explosion erupted from the inn, making Zia Fu jump in alarm. Inside the inn, Hong Xiu was eliminating the demonic cult remnants, just as Ziwei had instructed. Meanwhile, Ren Yi was also taking care of Zai Qing to avoid getting dragged into it. Even the monk had joined the fray. The moment Zia Fu arrived, he was greeted by a scene of utter chaos inside the inn, so shocking it made him break out in a cold sweat. While he was trying to make sense of it all, a shout from the side grabbed his attention. It was Yi. While fending off Zai Qing's disciples, she yelled, "What do you think you're doing? These are innocent civilians. Does the Spirit Sword sect really think it's okay to attack them?" But the man in front of Yi was like a soulless puppet, muttering brokenly, "Capture everyone, the leader, sect master's orders." Just then, another one tried to launch a sneak attack on her. In that critical moment, a sudden massive blast sent them all flying. When the smoke cleared, Zia Fu was standing protectively in front of Yi. Seeing him, Yi's face immediately lit up. Tianqiu spoke up at this moment. "Something's wrong with these guys. They look like they're..." But before she could finish, Ziwei quickly cut in. "Like they've been poisoned by goo, right? Their consciousness seems to be out of their control, their movements are erratic, yet their strength is immense. Their faces are a deathly blue-purple pale, like walking corpses. In reality, this is the state after having one's soul seized.